everybody. Welcome to Arsenal Fan Circle and the Sunday show. And what a performance today from Arsenal. I thought it was a very mature performance from a young set of players. A statement win was required. Win required from Arsenal today to keep us the embers of the title race glowing. And what a big contrast from a year ago when we went up there with a lot of injuries and we didn't have the heart. That was the biggest thing. We didn't have the heart to fight and win the duels, as Mikel Arteta always says. Apologies, we got off to a late start here because we had some technical difficulties. We're trying to get Usman on, and we're having some difficulties linking up StreamYard and all that stuff. So welcome to everybody. Thank you for being here. We know you have choices, and we appreciate you being here. But we're here to pretty much talk about for me, it was an outstanding performance, a complete performance from Arsenal up at Newcastle. And we'll take it from there. We'll try and get Usman in, see if he can, if his signal is strong enough to interact with us and get on the panel here. But I'll hand it over to Alonso while I bring Alonso in here. I'll hand it over to Alonso while I bring in Usman here. Okay, take it away, Alonso.
Right. Yeah, today was a good game. I thought that the setup was pretty good. I think that Eugenio coming in was pretty cool. I thought that Party still, after the game against City, was not very good and not at his best. So, it kind of makes a difference when you have Eugenio there and he's a leader, he's a known winner, and him take a spot in the team as well as Kubiar. So they both had good games. I thought the midfield played great. But yeah, all in all, I think the lineup changed a little bit and for the better, it seemed like. So yeah, first half was kind of intense there, and to the beginning of the match, they had a shot on goal. Newcastle did, and again, Zinchenko not playing, in my opinion, not good enough defense, and so yeah, that's a struggle for him all year, I believe. He just stands there and works and lets the ball hit the target, the goal. The post actually hit the post, and that's always a concern for me. And of course, whenever you're in that position, there's a little bit of worry and a little stress there in being in the match.
Yeah, listen, let's get through a few comments here. We're still basking in the glow of this win. I think this was probably Arsenal's best performance of the season. And, unfortunately, we will say we've dropped points in a critical part of the season coming up to Manchester City game. I thought the mentality of young players were found wanting up at Anfield, found wanting at the London Stadium at West Ham, but most essentially letting Southampton take 4 points off us, 2 draws this season has been hurtful. And but we needed to win this game. We needed to take this thing to the last week of the season. We're up against Manchester City. We know what they can do, and we know what they have done over the last few years. But I thought this was a massive performance full of maturity in a very tough environment. And we really, really ground Newcastle down and frustrated them to a point where they became very scratchy. They wanted to get involved in incidents throughout the game, and we played this game perfectly. Perfect combination of skill and tactics and sort of frustrating the home crowd, quieting the home crowd. It got quiet there in parts of the second half as well. And it was a perfect performance for me. And we'll go through it. We're all going to see it a little bit differently. Alonso and I were just talking about the referee before. I thought the referee had a good performance. And I'll get to you then, Alonso, on the referee. I thought the referee had a good performance. Took everything, considered everything on the field. When you go to Newcastle, sometimes in these bigger stadiums, the referees can buy into the home crowd a little bit and get caught up in the atmosphere. So let me get through a few comments here, Alonso, and then we'll get to you on the referee. Henry Ray Breaker said, hi, Ray. Ray, Tony, Gundet, and Alonso here. The boys did turn up. Thanks for being here, Hawkwin 77. Really, really good win, and it was not what I expected when I looked at the lineup as well. Uh, Ray Baker here, been ready since yesterday. A great win for Liverpool against Bournemouth. And, Man United, we're going to watch Man United today and see what's happening. Keep an eye on that scoreline for us, people, in the chat box. Hopefully, Man United drop points, Newcastle drop points. This brings Liverpool into the race for the top four. Thank you for beating the Georgies. Much appreciated. And aside from ourselves now, Liverpool are the only other team to have beaten Newcastle up there as well. I thought this was such a complete performance. This was the toughest game, Newcastle. And Alonso, we mixed in a little bit of the old shithousery,
Yeah.
When you're losing, when the team is losing and your supporters are losing, you're going to notice our players maybe taking 5, 10, 15 seconds, throw-ins and kickouts. Stephen is here just listening, still working. And I heard on Ryan's podcast, you're doing great work, Stephen. So keep up that good work. You're helping people. Russ Morgan is here. Good evening, lads. Still with the Unai Emery thing. Stephen O'Toole, lucky the Newcastle referee didn't send off Shar for sending off multiple yellows. He kept him on to score for us. Yeah, and look, the referee wasn't keen to hand out many yellow cards today, and some people would view that as him losing control of the game. Some people will view that as him letting the game flow. I don't know if Usman's signal is going to be strong enough to boost to us. Nothing new here, Russ. Referees are very poor standards. So, Alonso, you mentioned the referee. And what were your thoughts on the referee?
Yeah, we all know what kind of team Newcastle are. They got to rumble and bully their opponents. But, I thought that there are some cases where the cards could have went for us. For example, when Granit Xhaka got fouled late on that one tackle that was attempted, got him pretty good there by his, I believe it's his Swiss teammate.
Yeah,
and there was some more pushing and shoving that would probably cause him to get yellow carded, I guess, by any other referee.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks because normally we got beat up there, but it's kind of cool where we could stand our ground for a change and not had them bullied by the Arsenal, and it was really a really composed team, I guess. Whenever you see Granit Xhaka, Carl Wilson try to stir him up a little bit whenever he went to ground, and it's really, really interesting how we fought back. And I think Ray, to think more about what you were saying, that it's kind of cool that the referee didn't put in our cards because it would have been bad. It could have been bad. So I think at that point you could make an argument that he could have give a yellow card to Newcastle and to us as well, but he didn't. And now I think about it, it was a good thing he didn't.
Listen, for a referee, all you can ask is consistency in refereeing, and whether they're going to play it tight and let the players play, or they're going to hand out yellow cards throughout the afternoon. The referee's got to decide how he's going to do it, but he's got to do it and apply it consistently. Gary's here. Welcome. Thanks for joining us, Gary. DWTT checking in with us, saying hello. Well done, guys, giving us a chance in the top four race. I personally think it probably is a little too late in the season for Liverpool, but every little bit is going to help. And Manchester United right now are playing West Ham, and they are going to be feeling pressure right now, trying to get a result at West Ham.
But Ray, sorry, I noticed how the Newcastle fans would boo every time that they thought that they could have gotten a yellow card, which is kind of interesting because it kind of shows you now how they feel entitled now to give cards rather to the opposing team, and it kind of sucks how they've become now the Newcastle, the City fans, like them, because now they got money now and they have all these things now. They're all of a sudden good again, and they're not pleading for a card to be handed out, which is kind of unfair. It's kind of weird hearing it on TV rather than
Yeah.
booing the referees. So
I
that's
think
the other thing I don't.
when you're playing at home, you want to take every advantage that you can, and if the referees if you can get advantage from your home ground, encouraging referees to hand out decisions for you, well and good. Usman, wondering if you can hear us well right now.
Yeah, I can hear you guys perfectly.
All right, that's good. We'll go with Audio Usman. We'll nickname you Audio Usman for the afternoon, for the evening. Thanks for joining us, Usman. And you did say earlier in the week you wanted to come on the show today. I think it was on Thursday. So I was like, irrespective of the result, win, lose, or draw, you were going to come on today, Usman.
I'm a man of my word. I always say it. Whatever the result is, I will come on. It's just that it's been a few months since I last appeared because I'm quite busy with university. I'm in my final year and I'm getting that wrapped up this week. So hopefully everything goes well.
Cool. Are you in France or in Ireland now?
I'm in Ireland. I haven't been in France since June last year. I was just there for just a semester. And I'm back home now.
Okay, give us your thoughts, Usman, on that display there, and we'll open things out further from there.
It was a good performance, a little bit different to what you normally see. Seeing the Arsenal players just taking every opportunity they can get since the away side. I've seen more players go down than I've seen Wilfred Zaha this season, which is quite a surprise if you ask me. But to get a win at Newcastle at St. James's Park was so important for us, because whether people would like to agree with this or not, we are still in the title race. It's just that it's no longer in our hands, and if we want to give ourselves any possible chance there is at the title, it is these kind of games that we need to keep on winning. So it was quite a tight game. It was more in our favor than it was towards Newcastle's, but in the end, we got the win and we got a clean sheet as well, which is also a nice positive to have. And hopefully more of the same next week.
Yeah. Of the 4 games remaining, this was by far our toughest one, and we know the narrative from last season was we threw everything away at Newcastle, which we did. We threw everything away last season at Newcastle. And the question for all Arsenal fans today was, were we going to stand up? Were we going to stand up and fight for ourselves in this game and just not let everything fall through our fingers? You know what I mean? And I think we can safely say we did not let that fall through our fingers today. We took the initiative. We didn't take the initiative. We did after 10 or 15 minutes. Newcastle took the initiative, and we'll get into that. But once we got to grips with them in that opening sequence, we settled into the game. Thought we played really, really well, and we benefited from trapping them in midfield and transitioning on them in midfield to the point of where Joe Linton was taken off. A lot of their players were taken off, and it's just good to see Newcastle players being taken off. Eddie Howe running the white flag up the pole, and we get out of there with 3 huge points. And we're never going to know the significance of these 3 points until the season is played out. And as you say, Usman, Man City have now got 3 tough away games to navigate as well. They have to go to Everton, and in the last week they have to go away to Brighton and away to Brentford on the last day. The only home comfort they're going to have is Chelsea, who we beat comfortably this past week, midweek. So Russ said that tackle from Anderson on Xhaka was disgusting. Referee back turned, so didn't see it. VAR silent. He's gone in too late to injure Xhaka. And there was an element, Alonso, was an element of us frustrating Newcastle to the point of where they were getting niggly with their tackles.
Yeah, because during that time or the whole game actually, it kind of proves that our midfield is experienced and more mature, I guess, and more up for it than what Newcastle was. And Brandon Jacques and Jorginho played a great game. I tell you what, seeing uh, a guy who some supporters say he's too slow, but when you made that tackle and Newcastle's um, half, right, that was pretty awesome to see a guy like that make a tackle, knowing Dirk might score is pretty phenomenal. And to time that the way he did was pretty excellent. It's like the tackle that Bellerin made back when he played Chelsea all those years ago. And um, typical, he's the one that gets stuck out and will get a penalty caught on him, but this time merchant the saber, and it's pretty cool to see. Um, but that said, I think Jorginho, I think, Arteta bringing on Jorginho when he did, uh, starting today's game was pretty excellent. It was pretty cool. And also it kind of shows you that his experience does matter in these games, especially playing at Newcastle. So well played by Arteta, and Jorginho and Xhaka, to be honest.
Yeah. As John here at Revenite FC said from Liverpool, Brentford did it to us yesterday. Every touch they fell to the ground. They got nearly every decision just pelting, free kick and throw in after throw into the box. And Brentford have a very, very good, solid game plan in their system. Usman, I wanted a double pivot. And I feel like I saw a double pivot today with Jorginho and Granit Xhaka in midfield, Usman.
Yeah, that's why it seemed like to me as well. Most of the game when I was watching it, I've always seen Xhaka and Jorginho almost together on the pitch while Odegaard was moving forward. It was like an attacking 4-3-3 that we were playing, if not a 4-5, a 4-5-1 we were playing. It was good to see that those two together were playing quite well. I did have my concern with it because both Jacques and Jorginho are quite slow players. So if Newcastle ever did hit us on a counter attack, I would be worried because they don't have the legs to catch up with their players. But I've seen otherwise, and quite a surprise. But it did get the job done, so no complaints here.
Yeah. Revenite says Jorginho was superb again. He controls the game so well for you, and you know what you're getting with Jorginho. He's a little bit slower, but he's going to control the game for you. And I thought we converged on their midfield players very quickly. You'd have three players around the Newcastle player very quickly. And I thought that was a huge part of the game plan for Arteta today. West Ham have taken the lead against United. I think United they're having troubles now. Man United have injury problems and they have form problems, and they're probably going to just fall over the line here. But they're not playing well this part of the season, Alonso.
I always wanted West Ham to do well. Even though we might get Declan Rice, I never disliked West Ham as Arsenal's rival in London. I thought that either them or Everton are going to stay down, are going to go down, and I don't see West Ham going down. I see Everton more so going down than West Ham right now at this point. But yeah, I think Tony's favorite manager, Ten Hag, I think that I think he doesn't understand the English game quite, or he doesn't. I don't know. Like, it's kind of a weird dynamic because he signed some players that he thought would help United out, like Martinez and the winger there, Anthony, right? So, it's kind of a mystery because you got Rashford there, you have talent there, but at the end of the day, it's useless if you're not winning games, especially important games like this one.
Yeah.
And then in any other game because you're trying to stay top four, and Liverpool are in fifth, I believe, right? So they're trying to close the gap.
Yeah.
So,
Hawkwind was nervous for this Newcastle game, but the boys passed with flying colours. We were on Bruno Guimaraes like a swarm. He never got anything out of his feet. Constantly getting tackled. All right, so we do need to sort of mute the commentary or the TV, so we'll get pinged by our good friends at YouTube, and we don't want to do that. So yeah, not Alonso, Usman. We will get to. I know you have some specific points you want to talk about as well. We're going to review this game at Newcastle, and we get into some specifics you want to talk about for coming on the podcast, right? So tell me about the opening 10 minutes, Usman, of this game. We looked hella shaky, right, at the back.
I'll be honest with you. I didn't see the first 10 minutes of the game. By the time I finally got the game on, Odegaard just scored. So that was like the first thing I saw. So I can't really say what happened in the first 10 minutes. I'll probably have to go back and see any full highlights, see how we were during those first 10 minutes. Until then, I can't say much about it, unless you want to describe to me what happened.
No, I mean, Alonso and I can cover the first 10 minutes. So, Alonso, it didn't look good in the first 2 or 3 minutes, right? Murphy hits the upright. They come out of blocks really, really fast.
Yeah, and of course, sometimes the left-hand side of the pitch for Arsenal have been kind of shaky this year at times, lately more so than earlier this season. But yeah, they come out kind of blazing, right? Because I think that they wanted to get in the game ahead of the game easily and early on in the game. And I believe it was, who was it that hit the post?
Murphy,
right. So Murphy hit the post. And of course, Zinchenko just stands there, looks like an idiot, and doesn't really play defense, which is typical, right? But yeah, he just looks there and just stands there. There's nothing to try to get this stop the shot from going in, and it's kind of indicative of how he's been playing the past month, I guess, or month and a half rather. But it is what it is. Thankfully the goal didn't go in. But it was quite nervy at times, and yeah, I think it's hard to play there sometimes, and so to get that off their hands, to get that rough point, that rough patch off their hands is pretty incredible, and to see them go through that moment of agony there for a second was really they just shook it off, and they went on with it, and they executed up until I guess Odegaard's goal.
Yeah, and listen, we can bring Usman in terms of talking about referees as well in this situation, but bringing you up to speed, Usman, and Alonso obviously saw it as well. Right. Newcastle came out of the blocks fast. Murphy hits the upright early doors, and then 7 minute there's a short corner kick routine taken from Newcastle. We're kind of not marking. We're not picking players up. The ball's played to the top of the edge of the box with a clear shot from maybe Guimaraes it is. But the situation is where the referee is pointed to the spot for what he feels is a penalty kick. And Alonso, these referees, they seem to make these snap decisions and knowing they have VAR behind them to either back them up or help them in the situation where they haven't seen something.
Yeah, and I think that in part is due to the home crowd and also Liverpool players are surrounding the referee.
Newcastle, yeah.
Yeah, right. And Arsenal putting their case on why it's not apparently. And at times you see it in other teams as well that there's a shot for a penalty, right? And the team that wanted a penalty surrounds the referee to hopefully change his mind. And you see it so often that it's kind of annoying, and the referee doesn't even go to VAR anymore, or shows that he doesn't need to do that. But in this case, it was in our favor finally. And but what's annoying to me, I don't know if you saw it, Ray. Whenever the penalty was over or really our trip was over with, you see Zinchenko pleading with his case also, thanking the referee for calling that play or calling it a no penalty shout, which
Yeah.
as a fan is kind of annoying because you see it trying to change his mind as well. Zinchenko is, and I don't know, it's just kind of annoying to see. But anyway, they wound up.
I like to see our players involved and remonstrating with the referees and trying to argue our side of the case. I think too many times
Right.
over the years we've been too soft and accepting of what the referees give and the officials give. And so if you have a player on the field who's going to talk it out with a referee, I'm okay with that.
Okay, so but yeah, but you know, back to the penalty. Like, I think it's so easy to see that. Well, the player, you see a player get his arm around it, but you don't see where it first contacts. So that was the key moment in the game for me, was that the referee actually took time to look at it. You know, and you know, it was an important part. It was an important part of how the first half or that moment played out.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to bring you up to that goal, Usman, we did have they did have a penalty appeal. It hit Kivior's thigh, and his arm was behind his thigh, so the thought was that it hit his arm when it actually hit his thigh and bounced away. There was also an offside decision to be made on the short corner as well. So thankfully, VAR checked it, reviewed it, and to Newcastle fans' dismay, no penalty was given. At this point, Alonso, I'll stay with you, Alonso, until we get to the goal. I'm thinking Tottenham lost 6-1 or 7-1 or whatever it was up here. It's looking like we were going to concede a goal at that point. And I was thankful we hadn't conceded a goal. We were just hanging on, surviving, and Newcastle fans were starting to hate our perceived time wasting at the time. We just needed to draw the sting out of Newcastle a little bit at that point after 10 minutes.
Yeah, because had that VAR check on their way, it would have been a madhouse. And they're very good defensively. Newcastle are, so they know how to control the game whenever they had a lead. So it would have been difficult, but I think with our young talent, we would have been able to overcome that. And where in the past years we would have given up, especially after seeing what happened last year. With Bruno Mars taking control of that game. It was important also to note that during this game we didn't hear his name being called that much. Other than he shanked a shot here and there, and it was quite hilarious after last year's defeat up there at St. James's Park. But nevertheless, you know, we were doing our best to try to control the game. But one thing was kind of annoying. They would never get it past on the ground. It was always up in the air and trying to head it down to the ground or what have you. So that was kind of annoying. But at the end of the day, you know, it was before the Odegaard goal, you know, it was kind of like, well, who's going to score first, this and that. And they had three chances to score during that spell too. So you didn't know how you could overcome that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't looking good after 10 minutes. Mr. Bungle here said, a great win for the boys. Come on, just win all our games. What will be, will be. Unfortunately, that's all we can do. We can win out now, get to 90 points, and that's got to be the benchmark that we force Manchester City to hit, which they are capable of doing. We know this. We're going to need extreme favors from Brighton, Brentford, and Everton coming up. Craig here, Arsenal forever. Arsenal showed backbone and fight. This performance pisses me off. Where was it when it really matters? And we're going to probably going to look back, Usman, at that run of 3 draws coming up to that Manchester City defeat, where I think this young team started to sniff what Man City were doing and affected their own performances. Usman.
To be honest, when I think about those three draws, I think if the only game we drew was Liverpool, I would have told you that's okay because we would have
Mhm.
gone to West Ham, got a result, Southampton, same thing, and then would have seen what happened at the Etihad. But because we drew those two games, it's just it just felt demoralizing because it just felt like if we haven't gotten a result in those games, then Man City would have been looking at our games and thinking to themselves, we have a chance. Well, not as in we have a chance, but their chance is getting more and more likely that they could win the league this season. And we literally gave it. We gave them the opportunity to come and overtake us and have
Yep.
an advantage over us.
Yep. Yep.
And people want to say it's because some of our guys are out injured. Well, the thing is, injuries are a common thing in football.
Yep.
The players that you don't expect to get injured will get injured, and you just have to find a way to work around those injuries. To give you an example, you look at the France national team coming into the World Cup. About 6 or 7 of their main players that would have been in the squad with no question asked about it were injured. From Pogba to Kante to Benzema to Nkunku to Mayon to Luka Hernandez, they were all injured for the World Cup, and it had to do with some other players that wouldn't be in the starting lineup for the national team, but yet they got all the way to the World Cup final, and heck, almost won it in
Yeah.
that aspect.
Yeah.
So even though we had the injuries, we should have had found like other ways to keep the run
Overcome.
going. And
Yeah.
I think that's one of Arteta's main problems. He has one way of doing it, and it will be the death of him whether it works or not.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the problem came.
Yeah. Listen, I was disappointed even in today's lineup. I was slightly disappointed. The Trossard wasn't found the position on the field to play today, and maybe even Kieran Tierney. Now, glad Kieran Tierney came on after about 57 minutes. Arteta recognizing Zinchenko's deficiencies defending. But you're dead right there, Usman. There has been some favoritism towards certain players, and this is a big thing that Arteta needs to learn going into the summer and into next season. The challenge will be managing a squad through a Premier League, Champions League, and 2 cup competitions as well, and to not be perceived to bin off cup competitions that are minor. The FA Cup has to be as cherished as the league. You know what I mean? And this is the big next step for Mikel Arteta as well. And we want to finish out this season now with 3 wins. Brighton will not be easy at the Emirates. Nottingham Forest will not be easy away from home. And then if we have it, I would love to be in a position where we're still alive on the last day of the season against Wolves, and we need to win that game. But we'll see what happens. But this is something that Arteta is going to need to learn. He's 4 years in the job now, and he needs to learn how to pick lineups that will give him performances. And I think maybe you're talking about Saliba's absence, Usman, and bringing in Rob Holding rather than trusting uh, Jakob Kivior.
It's not just Saliba being out. We had Gabriel Jesus out for about 3 months. We had like Thomas Partey being out here and
Mm-hmm.
there, but thankfully it wasn't for that long. So the thing the thing is, like even when some your main players are not gone with whoever you have, you still need to like find a way to make things work because route A is not going to work for everyone, but route B might be the one that would make it work. And
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the whole favoritism, if if Kieran Tierney leaves Arsenal this summer because of the game time, I won't blame him at all. Even though
No.
there's reports coming out saying that he's unhappy and that he wants to leave. For the meantime, I don't think it's all that true. But if he does leave this summer, then I wouldn't blame him at all because the favoritism with Mikel Arteta is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But
Sinchenko getting probably 80% of the game time perceived anyway in the difference between Zinchenko and Kieran Tierney. He's played a lot more minutes than Kieran Tierney has. So yeah, let's get to the goal here. And Craig has outlined Brentford, Everton, West Ham, and of course Southampton. These are the teams that we have dropped points against. And notably, a lot of those teams are teams in the bottom half of the table. So you got to be ultra consistent. Got to be ultra consistent if you want to win the league, and you have to win your fair share of games. Now we've won 25. We won 25 games this season. We need to finish it with 28 games this season. Russ said, I like Holding as professional, but he's just not good enough to start for Arsenal for an extended period. And I think Jakob Kivior played really well today. We didn't notice him. And, you know, for a defender, if you don't notice a defender, then he's not making mistakes and he's having a quite accomplished game. I thought Kivior was quite good today. Usman.
yeah, he's had a good game. I think this is the second game he started for us in the Premier League, and he had a good performance today. Not the best, but it was good enough for us to get the win. And yeah, I did not even notice him for most of it. I know he was starting, but throughout the whole game, I didn't see him, only from here and there.
Yeah.
So
important.
Yeah.
So important that Gabriel Magalhaes was able to play as well. And I thought on the Thursday night forum, I felt confident he would be back after 3 days rest after that challenge against Chelsea. So the goal, Alonso. Gamares has a foul on Gabriel Jesus, and the ball is worked to the right-hand side where it comes to Saka, and the ball's passed centrally. And this reminded me of Tottenham away, Erdegaard's goal. What a hit from about 22 yards, Alonso.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I mentioned also on Thursday the transformation of Martin Odegaard once he came on to the team in 2021, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted more out of him. And the more he's been here, the more and more he's gotten better with both the playmaking, because that's what he's doing right now, being a playmaker. We didn't know how good he would be, but wow, I mean, he's not afraid to take chances whenever the opportunity is there for him. But yeah, what a banger, right? I mean, it's like, you know, the way he presents himself on and off the pitch is pretty incredible as well. It's like a proper captain. And when you have what makes a person a proper captain is the players around him who believe in him, who want to be around him, and you know, you see it. He makes everyone better. I think, and raises the bar. You know, whenever he's on his game, and he saw it today. You know, like I said, he's not afraid to take chances, and this one he was confident enough to take it, and he scored. And Jorginho had a good assist, and Saka started all. So you know, it worked out, and he took it and got the goal. So it was a great goal.
Yeah, there was another instance later on in the half where he refused to shot himself, tried to pass to Martinelli, and Martinelli's shot almost hit the corner flag. But Usman, Arsenal pretty much go as Erdegaard goes, right? I mean, the times where we have bad results and don't perform, Odegaard's generally not involved. But today, he was very much involved at the forefront of everything we did well, and got that goal for us after 13 minutes.
I want to go back to around last season, where most people were giving Odegaard the absolute scrutiny that was getting. That he wasn't good enough. He wasn't doing this. He wasn't doing that. We should have gotten James Madison. And now, to be fair, James Madison, Bundia as well. James Madison is a good player. He is a good player.
Yes.
He's probably like the best player out of a underperforming Leicester team.
Yeah.
But there was a reason why Real Madrid signed Martin Odegaard. There's a reason why they wanted to keep him rather than sell him off to us permanently. And I trusted Odegaard because I knew once Ozil was gone and he came in, I just thought to myself there was something about him, and he was going to rise to the occasion when we do need him. I mean, for the love of heavens, he is the captain of the Norwegian national team. Like, you expect someone else to be the captain of Norway, even if you don't know who the player is. Expect the person to be in their late 20s, early 30s, because of the leadership and experience. But it's Odegaard, and there's a reason why. And this season is just evidence to what I believed in him since last season, as since when he came on loan to us back in 2021, and to see him just being the main, almost the main man at on the 11, starting 11.
Mhm.
It's just a nice thing to see, and yeah, another good performance for him. I remembered I checked somewhere saying that with the amount of goals he scored in the league this season, he's close to a certain, I think it was like a certain record for amount of goals scored by a midfielder in a single season. I can't remember what that record is, but
Yeah.
it just goes to show how well he's done this season.
15 goals now after his two midweek against Chelsea. And when he takes the shot on, he's got all the skills to put a great shot together. He's got the control on the shot, as you saw against Chelsea, put it in the top corner, and he's got the control to hit the. He's got the technique to be able to hit the ball on the half bounce for the second Chelsea goal. And today, Alonso he just takes the onus. He's like, I'm going to take this ball and have a shot here. And Pope never really had a chance when it went through a few legs.
Yeah, it kind of shows you the skill he has, whether it be shooting the ball or bending it or just tapping. He's really game for. He has an eye for a goal, and I think his confidence right now is sky high. It kind of reminds you of the year that Fabregas had back in 2009, I think it was 2009, 2010. And we've always wanted that complete midfielder, and he does it by example, it seems like. And Fabregas is also captain in midfield, so at a young age, at a younger age rather. So you see the qualities there with Odegaard, and you see the players gravitate to him, towards him rather, and yeah, I think that there's also what's the word I'm looking for?
Authority.
No, it's continuity with the other Giant Xhaka. Anyway, so yeah, you see, it going on the training pitch. The way the plays are, the way that the training and practice kind of shows you what he could do on the field, and it doesn't happen without the players surrounding him and the team he has around him. So, fair play to him.
Yep. Listen, this is my nephew who is a Manchester City supporter. I'm sure we have given them pause for thought a little bit, Manchester City fans, and probably the most some Arsenal fans and most of the football world would have been saying Arsenal going to Newcastle. Well, they're not going to win that game. They'd be lucky to get a draw. So we're far from still paying the refs. In fact, title race still on apparently. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. You have to go and win a Champions League now against Real Madrid.
Right. The word was chemistry.
Chemistry is the word. Yeah, look, Usman, the chemistry we have, the way this team is growing. My notes here: Arsenal have performances in them this season that shows glimpses of greatness. So we just have to put all of that together, and there's a few more ingredients that come in midfield. Maybe Declan Rice, maybe a Caicedo, and those kinds of players will open up Erdegaard to have more performances more consistently. Because the criticism of Erdegaard is sometimes he goes missing, Usman.
I have two things to point on this. First is
Mhm.
going to talk about the chemistry of the team. Second is about the midfield options.
Yeah.
So in terms of the chemistry, it has it has majorly improved since last season. I think it does come down to the amount of players that are still part of the squad compared to last season. Surprised that not a lot amount of players have left the team, so that does help considering what the whole squad went through last season,
Mhm.
and it does help from going through the experience, knowing what knowing that even though you're all together through the downfall, working together, getting back to the top, it will come back to benefit the team. So that is a good thing.
Mhm.
And in terms of the midfield options, I understand Declan Rice as the defensive midfielder. I wouldn't mind him. My preferred option would have been Frank Yannick Kessié at Barcelona because he can do every position in that midfield. But I really can't understand the whole rave people have towards Moses Caicedo. Because
Mhm.
if we want Declan Rice, then I don't understand the point of having Caicedo
Caicedo as well. Yeah.
unless you want to have him on the bench, which is not going to be something that he would want. So if you do sign a Declan Rice or a Frank Yannick Kessié, which I know that's not going to happen, then you need a central midfielder who's going to do the box to box, who's going to do a better job than Granit Xhaka. And that
Mhm.
option for me would be Sergei Milinkovic-Savic from Lazio, who should have
SMS.
moved to a big club at this point in time. He is like 27, 28 right now, still playing for Lazio. No disrespect to the club, but a player of his caliber should have moved on from that club at least 2 years ago. Well, either him or get Yuri Tielemans on a free transfer because looks like Leicester City could go down and his contract is expiring. So I
Yeah.
those are the options I would like to have.
I agree with you to an extent with Caicedo. I think he's a young player that wouldn't mind sitting on the bench for Arsenal. We're going to have games in Champions League. Declan Rice. I agree with you. I don't think we're going to get Caicedo and Declan Rice together. That would be just dreamland for that to happen. I think the more likely thing is Declan Rice is coming, and yeah, SMS would be a great addition as well. And we have to look at these players going into the Champions League, and we have to see what's going to happen with the squad. There's lots of ways this can go. Usman, would you take Mason Mount instead of Caicedo, or in addition to?
Absolutely not. I am not. I would not take Mason Mount to the point where I would much rather take Jared Bowen and play him out of position in the
Yeah,
in the center
I like
than
Jared
play
Bowen.
than play Mason Mount. Like I don't really understand this whole thing about Mason Mount. He had a good 2020-21 season where they went and won the Champions League, got into the FA Cup final.
Mm-hmm.
But apart from then, I don't really see what it is with him that 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 are linking us to him.
Yeah.
Like apparently he got offered £180,000 a week to sign a new contract. He doesn't even want that. Apparently he wants around 200,000, which he's not even at that level to be being paid such an amount.
So we
Like,
can do
no, I
better in
don't
the
want him.
Mason Mount. We can do better in the Mason Mount. Going into Champions League is going to be important. Um, Alonso, getting back to the Newcastle game here, we're going to keep glowing. We have proven not to be a Tottenham. We've got the mentality to go there now, Newcastle, and win a game. We had a couple of chances here. Erdegaard, off of the goal that he scores, he's playing well. Through ball to Martinelli.
Oh man.
And yeah, you really want Martinelli and Saka to take those chances. You can take both of those in unison because in 20th minute, Erdegaard feeds Martinelli. Martinelli's shot is a good save by Pope, you could say. And then in 23rd minute, Bukayo Saka is through inside left from a Martinelli pass. And he hits it too high. Pope is able to deal with it with his arm.
Wait. The pass from Martinelli was from Xhaka.
Well, maybe it was Xhaka. My notes say Martinelli for Saka.
No,
Right?
I mean Xhaka to Martinelli on
No, that was
the one.
Erdegaard. That was definitely Erdegaard on the Martinelli one.
You sure?
Yep,
Right.
100%.
Either way, I mean, it was Martinelli should have gotten that one. I think that I kind of noticed that when he gets inside that box or anywhere else around that box, he dribbles way too much. And you could say, well, he could dribble around that and somehow make a good pass or even a shot on goal. But he just really dribbles too much, and sometimes he needs to work on that because he could have easily gotten a goal if had he not went too many steps.
Hmm.
And then Saka, same thing. He just took so long to get a shot off where you kind of knew where he would have been. And Nick Pope has some great saves too. He's good. He's a good goalkeeper. Um, so you can make a case for both that they could have gotten a goal off both shots. Martinelli and Saka, but Pope stood his ground too. So.
I'm definitely backing Ramsdale in the battle of the goalkeepers today, Usman. I thought Ramsdale was much more composed. Pope looked a little bit nervous at times, but he was the difference in the first half between us winning 1-0 at halftime and maybe 3-0 at halftime.
I saw somewhere where they made their Premier League team this season, and for some odd reason, they had David De Gea in that goalkeeping position instead of Ramsdale. I was thinking, what kind of weed are they smoking over there? I was like, no. Like, I get it. I get it. De Gea saved Man United so many times this season, but I just believe that Ramsdale just had the better season than him, and not only that, even Pope has a better season, had a better season than De Gea.
Yeah,
but coming back to the match, he does look more composed. He was on it from the first minute to the 90, and there was that absolute magnificent save coming from the corner in the second half. I think it was Shar that headed the ball, and
Shar had it point blank. He saved it on the line. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he made that. He made a fantastic save, and the best thing is, that's not the only save that Ramsey has made of that kind of caliber. Look back at that game at Anfield against Liverpool.
Absolutely.
Where Salah had that one shot where it seemed like it was about to go in, and he just made that save. Mm-hmm. I say, yeah, Ramsdale, good performance as usual. And yeah, he has proven me wrong since we signed him last season.
Yep. Unfortunately, the only mistake I remember Ramsdale making is the Southampton mistake, which led to a 3-3 draw. We're going to look back at a couple of results, hopefully, probably at the end of the season, and feel like we left some things on the field. On the other hand, without Ramsdale at Anfield, we don't get a draw there. Today, he came up with some key saves as well in key times. At 1-0, still into the second half, and the 27-minute Joe Willock had a shot saved from Ramsdale, and then 28 minutes, Wilson is going through, and Ramsdale is at his feet to palm the ball away from his feet. Newcastle are getting frustrated at this point. So I see them tackling Saka and in our right back corner, and being hugely frustrated after 30 minutes, Alonso, through Ramsdale and through Arsenal's play in midfield.
So what was the question?
Oh, just basically saying Newcastle are getting frustrated after about 30 minutes. On 32 minutes, we have a counterattack where Martinelli has the ball at his feet. Erdegaard shouting for the ball, Alonso.
Oh, yeah.
This is the back heel. He kind of back heels it to Gabriel Jesus when he should have played it to Erdegaard.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. Like, at times, Martinelli can just take his time and not realize that, he has players in front of him his own teammates, and it's kind of discouraging as a fan because he could do so much more if he just pays attention and not try to make a big play or because defenders are fast. They're going to catch up to him and they're going to kick it out. And I think that kill was unnecessary. I thought Odegaard had a good chance to score a goal. But it's just frustrating at times. It really is.
Usman, these situations where you get through 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper, or you have a 3-on-3, and you're transitioning against the team of Newcastle. We have to recognize Newcastle's defense is very, very good. They've got the best defense in the league. But really, you got to take your chances here. You got to be efficient with the ball and make the right choices, right?
Yeah, that is true. Sometimes the one way you always know works for you may not work for you in certain situations. So it was quite a tough situation trying to figure out how Arsenal were going to get the goals against Newcastle, considering they have the best defense this season. Looking at Odegaard's goal, you could say any other keeper might have saved that shot. And as for the second goal, it was
Harsh.
a lucky one. To be honest, it was quite a lucky goal. In fact, I had Fabian Schär in my fantasy Premier League team, and I did not figure he was going to score an own goal. So yeah, that goes -1 point for me.
No, I think we'll talk about this as well. When you stress a defense that much and you worry a defense that much, a player like Martinelli, if he makes the right choices, he can scare defenders into doing what Schär did. They're not able to think fast enough. When you square up a defender twice in the second half, like Martinelli did for that goal in, I think, the 73rd minute, when you do that to players, 71st minute, you have a counterattack, Alonso. And when you square up, I think it was Botman twice, and then you go to the byline and you get a ball into a very dangerous area between the goalkeeper and the defender, you're forcing defenders to make very, very quick decisions, Alonso.
I missed that goal because I was in the restroom handing some.
Usman, you're forcing defenders to do things they're not used to. Defenders like to have time on the ball and to diagnose things and understand how to deal with things. But when a ball comes so fast, beyond Pope and right on the feet of Schär didn't know what to do with that, Usman.
Yeah, those are the kind of situations that you wish your club can cause to your opponent, because it gives defenders less time to think and making rash decisions based on the scenario. So yeah, I was glad we got into that kind of situation, because most times it might be happening to us, and obviously we could tell the consequences of those kind of situations are.
I think
get into those.
I think in a game such as this as well, Usman, defenders get tired in midway through the second half. You're getting tired because it's in a high intensity game. Those defenders have to track Martinelli back into their own box from a quick transition. And Martinelli squares the defender up twice, goes to the byline, and those players are tired at the back. And when you're tired, you're going to make mistakes like this. Fabian Schär making this own goal. Reminded me a little bit of Bukayo Saka at Crystal Palace and Bukayo Saka at Tottenham as well. When you force a quick ball into the box, you never know what can happen. Coming back to the 40th minute, Joe Linton is dispossessed. Yeah, so Joe Linton dispossessed in midfield, Alonso, 40 minutes. Odegaard carries the ball forward. I thought maybe Odegaard could have taken the shot. I mean, hindsight's 2020, right? Take the shot there, but he passed it to Martinelli, and he doesn't have any kind of a shot really on target at all.
Yeah, Martinelli just tries to do his best by, trying to make the best out of it. Even Martinelli could have took more time to make a pass. I think at near post, maybe soccer could have gotten it. But what are you gonna do in that situation? Everything moves so fast sometimes that the player's not aware, or maybe makes a decision whether he can make it to the right corner or what have you. He just tries to bend it, and it winds up being a cross, and winds up going, a goal kick.
Yeah. Usman, at this time, it's getting quite fractious on the field. Newcastle players clearly frustrated by not having everything their own way. There's a coming together. I think it's an accidental thing where Gamaris comes across because Saka hits him on the ankle. But Joe Linton seems to get quite triggered for this one. And you have the Brazilian players, the two Gabbies trying to calm him down.
That scenario reminds me of the incident back at the Emirates where we played against Liverpool, where there was an altercation between Henderson and Magalhaes.
Yeah.
Now, to this day, I still don't know what happened, or what was said. But when you look at when you look at Firmino's face, you could tell that something wasn't right.
He was disappointed. Yeah.
So coming back into the game, it's like we're getting them frustrated, and it is something that I do like to see, because most times it's teams doing it against us, and our players are always getting frustrated.
Exactly.
And it works for them so that they can waste more time, or they can just shut down any kind of momentum we have on the pitch. So it's nice to see it being switched over, and we're the one causing the opponents to get frustrated.
Exactly right. Great point, Usman, because maybe this is the final few parts of this team growing and maturing, that the mentality has to be there, that we stay focused on our game while we get other teams, especially competitive teams like Newcastle or maybe a Man United, Liverpool, or even if we can get to a City, mentally speaking, that we can trigger them and get them off their game, because that's definitely what we were doing toward the end of the game. Joe Linton getting triggered. We're having 5 minutes of extra time in the first half. Erdegaard has a professional foul on Gamaris. These are the kind of things you like to see, the mentality aspect of us being switched on. And yes, you can ask, where was this for the last month of this season, the last few weeks, where we did falter? And, we're probably going to be disappointed at the end of the season and look back, but we have to look at this team as a young team. I was disappointed Trossard didn't come in, because that's an experienced player who could help us on the field. You talked about Jorginho Alonso helping us on the field. I thought he had a great game. I thought he was going down when he was being challenged, and we're buying free kicks, which all of this adds to frustrating the home team as well. Xhaka went down on the edge of the box as well, Alonso, and Callum Wilson was quite triggered by that as well.
Yeah, that was pretty. I don't know if you heard Peter say on the USA channel.
Yes.
That he was trying to reverse the narrative, right, with Granit Xhaka and Colin Wilson. And Colin Wilson was trying to wrap him up. Granit Xhaka was getting beat up all day. It seemed like, from the shin guards and from the angles. He was getting really banged up out there, and of course, referee doesn't protect him enough. And Colin Wilson also know better than that. He I don't know how much he gotten carded, or his fair play has better, or whatever, but it seems like the typical Newcastle player nowadays, that they just want to bully their opponents, and have them wound up. And I think Granit Xhaka kind of was upset because the way he got fouled there, and Colin Wilson wanted to hurry up and get up and all that stuff. Well, if you're hurt, then you can't get up right away, right? And Granit Xhaka took offense to that, and just didn't want his hand to get up, and I don't blame Granit Xhaka for getting upset about that,
Yeah, look, I'm scrolling. I'm going to get to you, Usman, because you have to leave us in a few minutes, and just formulate any points that you want to bring forward before you go. But I just want to mention something here. Scrolling through Twitter here, and Eddie Howe is complaining about time wasting. Isn't that a little bit Is what's the word for that? You've got no humility, Eddie Howe. You're complaining about time wasting when you were literally living off of the oxygen tanks at the Emirates when you were and your team had to dig in and get a point against us at the Emirates. He goes on to say it was very frustrating for us. Lots of breaks in play. We wanted the ball and play more. We can't control that. That's the ref's job. So managers are going to moan about things if it doesn't go their way, but they quickly forget how they acted in the corresponding fixture. So, Usman, I wanted to give you the opportunity to broach any topics you wanted to talk about on Thursday that you mentioned, because you're going to be leaving us in a few minutes.
Yeah, so I know we're going to be in the Champions League next season, and I know when we get into the Champions League, we're going to need a lot of reinforcements, and not just the kind of ones we've been getting for the last couple of seasons, because we now need more top tier quality signings if we're going to do
Yes.
anything in the Champions League. So
Yes. Be
I was having
competitive.
to, so I was having to think about for the last few days. It's like, okay, reporters saying that this position needs some signings, this position needs to be signed this. So if we're going to need any signings for next season, which is going to be a lot, and I don't know if we're going to do all those, but it's going to be a lot. So we need a proper right back. We need a quality center back, and depending on the whole left back situation, if Tierney does leave, then we need to get a left back.
Yep.
A defensive midfield is a priority.
Yep.
Regardless of Thomas Partey's situation, whether he's going to stay or he's going to leave.
Yep.
We definitely need a center mid who's an upgrade on Granit Xhaka. Probably a right winger, a backup right winger for Saka, because he can't be playing every single game, every single minute, because he's going to get burnt out. A left winger, I'm not so sure about a left winger, even though Martinez doing well and Trossard doing just as well. Yep. I still think that maybe we might need that one. And obviously, there's discussions about needing a different type of striker to Gabriel Jesus. So I actually thought of different players that we could go in to sign if we are going for all these for all these kind of positions. So
sure.
For the right back,
yep,
I would like Arsenal to sign one Denzel Dumfries from Inter Milan, who plays for the Dutch national team. I think he would be an upgrade on Tomiyasu, and would no longer need Ben Wright to play that position. Well, if you think about it, like Tomiyasu is injured, he's out for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
and if you have to look at his season from start to finish, he's one of Japan's best players, and he didn't even start most of the games. So that is a question mark in itself, if you think about it.
Yeah.
As for the center backs, I'm not so sure on who to get. I was looking at Milan Skriniar. I just realized his contract is running out at the end of the season. We could get him on a free if we could persuade him to join us. But I just realized he's actually injured and he's out for the rest of the season. So I think that kind of takes him out. But I'm not so sure on who to get. But
Gahey,
maybe
there's a lot of talk about Crystal Palace's Gahey as well coming in to be the center back.
I heard his name.
The right center back is going to cover Saliba. I think he's young enough and he's willing to learn. By all accounts, Crystal Palace, he's a good lad that takes on coaching. So he could be a good Premier League. I think we've been targeting a lot of Premier League players to step in and do the job. We always worry about European players coming in and settling. The Premier League, we don't have that issue so much. Right back, it's a tricky one. If you believe Tomiyasu is not for the future, then you need to go and get a right back. Whereas Ben White cannot play all of the games. And Ben White's another one who's sort of been favored. And jump in, Alonso, if you got any comments on what we're talking about as well.
Yeah, I really like Gahey as a player. He's also an English international. I think that he's a good player on a bad team or not as good a team. So
Yes.
I would take him in a heartbeat because he'll push Gabriel Magalhaes and or maybe
Saliba.
Saliba at times. And we're going to need depth since we're in Champions League.
Yep.
We
Yep.
need quality depth, and he brings that. And I think we need a right back, like Lewis was saying, because we're in Champions League now, and Ben White needs a rest here and there. And I think Tomiyasu still has a part to play in the team. That'd be center back or right back. So it's just him he got hurt. I think he's still a good player for us. But I think the future's still bright for our center backs. So I think we're almost there as far as quality in the back, and we need a left back as well. I don't think Zinchenko. I don't think that he's all that great of a left back. So I think he's very mistake prone as well. So it's going to be an important season. It's going to be an important transfer season for us. Arsenal.
Yeah. As Usman's brought the topic, if Tierney moves on, and we couldn't argue with it, with the fact that Tierney wants to move on because he clearly hasn't been given enough minutes. Zinchenko's being favored. I think Tomiyasu would be happy continuing in the position behind Ben White. We talked about midfield, Usman. I think we're pretty much covered in midfield if it's going to be a Declan Rice, unless you have a few other names. The left wing is covered with Trossard and Martinelli. Even Emile Smith-Rowe can play. Bukayo Saka will be covered by Reece Nelson if he's willing to stay. And I know negotiations continue with Bukayo Saka's replacement, Reece Nelson, on that side. So Reece Nelson may want to move on for a new challenge as well. And this is going to be the challenge for Arsenal to fill in the squad in terms of players who are going to be willing to sit behind our prime starters. Up front, there's a question mark over whether Balogun should come back and have a chance to be that option, or if we go get a striker ourselves, Usman. So anything else for the last couple of minutes while you're with us, Usman? Or to add to that?
Yeah, I do have some things to add regarding the other positions. Like you said, we've already covered the midfield, so that's not much of an issue to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
There is one thing, but I'll get to that in a moment.
Sure.
As for the left backs, there's one Alejandro Grimaldo who plays for Benfica.
Yeah.
His contract with Benfica is running out. He is the kind of player that you'd also, a couple of years ago, he was the kind of player you expect to join a top club in the future. But I'm surprised he's 25, 26.
We've come across his name before. I think when we faced them, Benfica, in the Europa League a few years ago.
Yeah, I think we did come up against him. I do know we did come up against Nuno Tavares, and we went and signed him.
Yeah,
so he's a name for the left back position. If possible, like if you want to make a statement for that position, if Tierney does go, I'll say why not try going for actually no. I was going to say Nuno Mendes, but then I just remembered he's also injured. He's probably out for the season with PSG. That club is an absolute mess. Looking at it right now, so I say avoid them for the time being.
Yeah.
As for the attack, for the left wing position, I would like Arsenal to try and get Rafael Leao from AC Milan.
I had a feeling you might say Rafael Leao.
I like the player. He always plays with a smile on his face. Whether winning, losing, drawing, he's just smiling anyhow.
Yeah.
Making me think he's a relative to N'Golo Kante. But anyways, when this season's done, he's going to have 1 year left on his contract. There's a whole discussion about him potentially signing a new deal, but I don't know if any progress has been made towards that. So if it's possible, try and go in for him, he will cost a bit cheaper than what he would have costed if he was on like a 3-year, 4-year deal, and you could also maybe help him cover the cost that he has with Sporting Lisbon, which is a whole story in itself.
It's
Right?
it's gonna be it's gonna be a busy summer because we are gonna be in pot 3 of a Champions League group. So we're gonna play 2 very good teams, and we're gonna have to overcome at least one of those 2 teams to get into that second place in the Champions League and progress to the latter stages of the competition in February. So we're gonna have to outlay quite a bit of money. I think 200 million is the sum that I was thinking, and I think people have been talking about 200 million. Now that's going to include some outgoing, some generating of cash as well, and we have to get used to the fact that we're going to have to recoup some money as well. So a player like Kieran Tierney may have to move on. A player like Reece Nelson may want to move on. Both of those players may want to move on. I'm quite happy with the performance of Kivior, Jorginho, and Trossard. Our January signings have done us well so far. I think Arteta just needs to become more used to using these players that he brought in January. Any other points, Usman, or can you stay a bit more, or are you leaving now?
I'll be going soon, but I'll just mention two final names.
Yeah.
With the backup for right wing. If you're going to look for anyone you're going to sign for a right winger, they have to be okay with being on the bench and being a backup to Bukayo Saka. Because looking at it around, there's not many names that would be okay with such a situation.
Yes.
And as for the striker, obviously we need an opposite to Gabriel Jesus. There's the talk of Osimhen, there's Vlahovic, which I don't think is going to happen because people will be expecting a lot of money for those kind of players. And I don't even want Vlahovic to come to Arsenal because he never came to us in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So, 2 names I will point out. They're not that rare players, but who knows, in a couple of years they might be. Marcus Thuram, who plays for Mönchengladbach, who's out of contract by the end of the season. And we have Eintracht Frankfurt's Randall Kolomoani. Yes, if their name rings a bell, that is the player who had that shot against Martinez, who saved it with his foot to win Argentina the World Cup. But
I was
just going to point out there.
Yep. Yeah. So those are some good names, and worthy names that could come in. I think we may get 1 or 2 from the continent because the way we've been going the last couple of years, we've gotten a player from Portugal, or we've gotten a player from, I can't think of another country, but maybe France, right? I know we definitely got Fabio Vieira last season. It can happen. Generally, a lot of these players are probably going to come from the Premier League as well. But there is a lot to be done if we're thinking about progressing to the latter stage of the Champions League. A lot of Arsenal fans want to be in the Champions League to win it, and I believe Mikel Arteta wants to be in the Champions League to win it as well. Now, we're not going to win it next year, but we want to be able to be in a situation where we build our squad with these young players we have, and we're in the Champions League every year now, so we can build to a Madrid who's getting weaker maybe. And that Madrid team could be better than Man City, or an Arsenal team that can compete with Man City. Alonso?
I remember, like Gary said, every game at all costs. So
it's got to be every game at all costs. The banner down below there, Usman, the banner down below, to be or not to be, it's kind of a banner that I've had throughout the season, progressive or pragmatic. What would you like to see? A little bit of each, or one or the other from Arteta moving forward?
A combination of the two. Be progressive, but at the same time know when, if something's not working, a decision has to be made, whether it's majoritarily accepted or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from the Arsenal fandom, we go to the Etihad. Maybe you got to be a little bit more pragmatic and not be as open as we were playing Granit Xhaka beyond Kevin De Bruyne and leaving Partey on an island by himself with Rob Holding. Hopefully we've learned the lesson with Rob Holding now. Kivior's had two very, very good. Usman, you're going now, so I'll give you a chance to say goodbye to everybody, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to how the season goes. Hope have a good end to this episode of the podcast. Yeah, hopefully to catch up with you sometime soon.
Yeah, and maybe we can connect when I get over there as well. I'll be visiting within the next month, hopefully, as well. So, thanks for being here, Usman. Thanks, and we'll carry on into the second half. Alonso and I. Alonso, Erdegaard, he's got a score right at the end of that first half.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes you can be overconfident and totally miss your mark. I think he was probably doing too much on trying to get a shot on goal. And Pope, like I said, he had a good game as well. Trying to stop shots and all that, but he timed it perfectly where he didn't have to hesitate to make that shot, and it wasn't strong. It wasn't strong enough either. I kind of thought so.
Yeah. He does everything to sit the defender down, go past the defender, and he's kind of reaching for the shot a little bit.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and in my opinion, the ball wasn't placed where he could have gotten a shot.
West Ham still losing 1-0 to United. You love to see it. Arsenal winning at Newcastle 2-0. Things you love to see, Alonso. Things you love to see.
Yeah.
After all the time wasting Newcastle did at the Emirates, and they got applauded for doing that. They got applauded for being defensively sound against this great Arsenal team. We went up there and stuffed them 2-0, Alonso.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. I wonder what Gary was going to say this time about this weekend's. Hopefully, West Ham can hold on. But it'd be kind of funny what Gary Neville has to say about Arsenal win today.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think like the commentators were saying how difficult it was to play at St. James's Park. It could be very intimidating once Newcastle are on their game, and it wasn't that long ago that Newcastle could have been relegated. Yeah, it's interesting developments there. So like I said, if it wasn't for a little money, they would probably still be just as bad. So yeah, I mean they're doing good as well. So it was a good result. And how our midfield wasn't intimidated like they were, or at least they have been. So
how do we characterize Newcastle then? They're a team with a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm, and they win the physical battles, but maybe they don't have the technical skills to win games. They've drawn a lot of games this season.
Yeah, and part of that, in my opinion, right, is a lack of a number 10, like we have it, with Martin Odegaard.
Yeah.
There's nobody to press either, like Arsenal have done, and they lack that. They lack that final third, I guess, if you want to say that. So who knows what they'll do in the summertime. Because it's going to be a competitive transfer window, especially if the sale goes through to the Saudis, like it's rumored to have been.
They need a little bit more creativity, like you said, going forward to formulate clear-cut chances for Wilson and Isak. Isak seems to be very much out of sorts, and I wonder if Eddie Howe made a mistake here going two up front with those two players.
Yeah, because with Isak and both Connor Wilson, in my opinion, they're both kind of inconsistent at times. You've seen Connor Wilson make the England squad, but you're supposed to build off that, in my opinion, and he hasn't done that since he got named to the squad. And Isak, he's got talent there, but he's always hurt, so he hasn't really found that rhythm yet. So you never know what's going to go on in that point of time. You never know what the owners are thinking. You don't know what the Eddie Howe's how he's going to change his tactics next season, because I think he knows what he needs in the summer transfer market, and would that even player adapt to his style of play. Because Newcastle are also a tall team, as you saw today with
Yes,
their center
physical,
back.
tall
Yeah,
and physical. Yep.
so you don't know how people are going to adapt to that style of play, you know?
Yeah. This I all we saw today was Eddie going around saying how how are Arsenal how are Arsenal doing this to us? That's all Eddie was saying. How? Well, a lot of people lauded Eddie Howe as being like some kind of tactical genius. He's got him playing well. He's got him playing physical football. But when it came to the gut check time and needing a statement win, this Arsenal team stepped forward in their mentality. And I gotta give Granit Xhaka a lot of credit for this performance today. Really do. He put his body on the line. He put his foot places where other players wouldn't put their feet, and he got hurt. He's probably hurting right now, but he put his body on the line for Arsenal to go. And those players, Alonso, these Arsenal players must have been so hurt last year, losing top four to Newcastle, that they had a point to prove today.
Yeah, and you saw a documentary. Who cares how much of it is fabricated and all that. It was tough to handle. As a fan, seeing how good we were or throughout that season, and we had so much to prove, and we really missed out on top four to just come to earth, which makes it worse. Um, and how far we've come from that point on to this year, um, it's quite amazing. No matter how we end up in the season, we're still going to finish at least second. Um, to see how far we've come, and yes, we drew against Liverpool, Southampton, and West Ham, but those could have been losses as well. Um, but you can see some of the similarities there. And if it does come out to the final season, and City do lose their games at hand, hopefully they do. You come back to that game against Newcastle and say, "Well, this is a game that people would say we lose at St. James's Park. We wind up winning that game." So we never know how the season is going to end up. But that game was pivotal because some people thought we'd lose that game.
Yeah. Listen, I think a lot of the football world thought we weren't going to win here at Newcastle. And this was a performance full of endeavor, full of willpower, the will to win, and full of quality in the end, because we cut open this Newcastle team numerous times, 3 or 4 times in the first half, where we should have gotten more than the one goal. And this is the best defensive team in the Premier League, and they were playing at home as well. Only one other team, Liverpool, had beaten Newcastle, and that was sort of a smash and grab situation. I feel like we did it with a much bigger performance. We did something similar with a bigger performance. Alex, good to see you here. Good evening, chaps. Indeed, I'm thinking we're gonna have a podcast today, and this is a game I'm looking forward to, Alonso. I was really looking forward to this game, but you're also thinking we could lose this one, we could win this one, or we could draw. And the thoughts of losing this game and having it be like the absolute full stop in our season, because the league's over. If we don't get 3 points today, the league is basically over. Whatever about our chances now till the end of the season. If we didn't get all 3 today, you could say that's it. The league is over.
Yeah, and people were also saying that we could lose to Chelsea too because it's a away game, and they had a point to prove as well. But I think Chelsea are in shambles right now, so you got to take advantage of that situation while you still can. And I think people still have it back in their mind what happened last year with Newcastle and the way they've been performing this year. They're, like you said, they're the best defensive team. And I think Eddie Howe prides himself on that, and how they've been so good this year defensively that you got to sacrifice one to the other. That having more chances to win by giving up less defensively or giving up less defensively, rather attacking more offensively. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you give up more. You don't give up more goals, but then you're not scoring enough offensively. So the score line says, 0-1 or 0-2, given the circumstances. So I think Newcastle and they help pride themselves on that. And as a Newcastle fan, I'm sure they're frustrated with the lack of goals being scored.
Yeah, and I thought we limited them to not really clear-cut chances, whereas we got a couple of clear-cut chances in this game. The assemble is asking Sam, but we're going to take this question as well. What do you think the difference was today? I thought personally the difference was we were able to win our duels in midfield. When Newcastle had the ball in midfield, Gamaras or Joe Linton or even Willock, 2 or 3 players swarmed around that Newcastle player, and we were able to get the ball back from them. And from that position, we were able to counterattack or transition quickly on them. Case in point, the second goal Arsenal score, Newcastle have a situation in our left back area, and we're able to transition quite quickly through Martinelli and Gabriel Jesus. And in the end, Martinelli is working against a tired defender, squares him up twice, and is able to put a very, very difficult ball for a defender to deal with in it. So that's what I thought. What were your thoughts? The difference was today, Alonso, and definitely there's a mentality aspect as well that you have to bring your mentality receipts to Newcastle.
Yeah, I think that the difference was the midfield. I think you had a more composed Jorginho in there, and I think his experience really did well today. I think him and Xhaka were the most. I think the difference today because them two. I think like you guys had said, you mentioned that they both played a double pivot midfield, which
Double pivot, yeah.
I think you also Lee Dixon had mentioned that Granit Xhaka is playing more defensively, and you saw it today how important that was as far as nice and tight defensively, and controlled the game. And I think we're not asking Jorginho to be a fastest player on the pitch. We're asking him just to control the game and use his talents to his advantage. And also, Granit Xhaka played a great game as well defensively because, I think back to that tackle he made on whenever Newcastle was threatening to score a goal. You saw him do some work, put some work in, and fair play to him. I think in past games, you saw him defensively do horribly, and he kind of
lose his composure as well, right?
Yeah, and also he's been beat up so bad today that hopefully he'll get man of the match.
Yeah, Sam said I'm definitely putting Granit Xhaka up there as man of the match for me. Tony's not here, so we're going to decide it between us. Okay. We're going to get into the stuff Tim is talking about here as well. I've got viewpoints on this as well. Sam said we were better on the ball, and after the first 15 minutes, we looked like we could soak up the pressure and attack them. Jorginho and Kivior provided much more stability. Erdegaard was really on form today as well. So I thought mentally we weren't Tottenham. We didn't fold after 2 or 3 minutes. We could have, We stood up and we fought the battles and we irritated their midfield. Tim said, Sam, I saw you debating with Jez Collins from Arsenal history and more. I agree with you. They've been attacking Arteta relentlessly. Look, I formed Arsenal fan circle here so I could bring viewpoints from everyone, but we say it in a respectful way. We're not calling for Mikel Arteta to be sacked. We've never said Mikel Arteta out. In fact, I'm a very what do you call me? What do you call me again? What do you call me? Optimistic, right? I'm an optimistic Arsenal fan. And here's the thing as well. Jez thinks anybody that challenges him as a child or a troll. The things that he says as well. I've been watching Arsenal since 1960. I've been watching Arsenal since the mid 80s. I've been watching Arsenal since the mid 80s. But Alonso, you've been watching Arsenal since when?
2008.
Okay, but I respect you equally. I think we both follow Arsenal the same way. To say that you follow Arsenal longer than someone else is saying that you know something more or you're a better supporter. And this is what irritates me about some of the Arsenal fan base. We're all in this together and we all have to coexist together and we can all have our viewpoints. And I bring everyone into this channel, onto this forum. They all have different viewpoints. I feel optimistic about what's happening. At the same time, we have made clear mistakes. Arteta has made clear lineup mistakes, in my opinion. But I'm not going to be on here shouting Arteta out because you put a team out there, and Stan has joined us as well. You put a team out there, and you have to believe in that team to go and get you win. As a manager, all you can do is make 5 substitutions, or maybe 4, because you want to keep one back in case you have an injury.
Hey, wait,
Stan, yeah.
Like Stan says, I'm still 50-50.
Did he say that?
Well, before, yeah.
Stan, you said sounds like I watched a different game than everyone else.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm lying in bed with a bad back.
With the
So
pad, heating pad.
I figured nobody wants to see me lying in bed. That's why I haven't got my my camera on.
Camera on.
But I have been listening to a lot of the show while I've been lying here in bed, and I actually thought that up until when we scored that first goal, I was sat there and I thought to myself, "Man, we are so lucky."
Yes.
I didn't think we was in control of much of the first half at all.
Really?
I felt that Newcastle were running us ragged. We were deficient a left back yet again, which I found was really like giving me heart palpitations. And as for Granit Xhaka being nominated as man of the match, I just constantly, in that first half, he just kept giving the ball away and turning the ball over in really dangerous places, as did Janino. I thought they had an awful first half, and we were extremely lucky. I mean, when that ball hit the post early doors,
second
I
half,
was like, man, we're getting out. They are on it today, and we're getting out of jail. It was like a get out of jail feeling for me.
So we did cover that early part after the first 10 minutes. I thought it was going to be like Tottenham. I thought we were going to be a goal or 2 down after the first 10 minutes. So I hear you. I hear where you're coming from. And we've talked about it the first 10 minutes. But then we get a foothold into the game after 12, 13 minutes with Ødegaard's goal. And I thought we played really well from that point on till the end of the half. But it is interesting how Arsenal fans, I'm not saying you're wrong in any way. We all see things differently, Stan.
I felt that our goalkeeper was keeping us in it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, at half-time, it could have been 3-3.
But here's the thing, like, you have a Newcastle team. Man City only drew 3-3 here at Newcastle. Liverpool are the only other team to go there and win. You're going to expect to not be in complete control at Newcastle. You have to expect that, you know. But we took our chances where they didn't.
We had a lot more chances that we could have taken and that we
absolutely
could have converted.
Yeah, Martinelli had a shot, Saka had a shot, Ødegaard had a shot, and they were all saved by Pope.
Yeah, you got to do better there, I think. You know,
absolutely.
If you're creating those many chances, you need to be putting more of them away because nothing's secure.
And we did mention that earlier in the podcast as well. So the first 10 or 15 minutes of the podcast, we're talking about we could have been beaten here easily, but we held in there, we hung in, and we needed what we did. I think, Stan, was we drew this thing out of them in the first half. It looked bad for the first 10, 15 minutes.
I disagree. I thought that we were extremely lucky to come away with all 3 points, and I'm glad. It was a very physical game.
Yeah.
But even some of that, I felt like, why are we going down this road of trying to give it the argy-bargy? Just get on and play the game. Stop focusing on all the other argy-bargy stuff. Xhaka, I was sitting there thinking, oh, okay, so it's just a game where Xhaka's going to finally get that red card that he hasn't got yet this season. I just don't get it. Do you know what I mean? He's sitting on the floor and that. He's sitting on the floor and he's trying to fight people while he's sat on his ass. If you want to fight the guy, stand up and fight the guy. If not, just sit down, chill out, and just get yourself looked after.
Well, Stan, we've seen what happens if he gets on his feet and fights the guy. He gets a red card. So we have this new, what are we calling this? The reinvention of Granit Xhaka?
Might as well, man.
What have we been talking about, right? The reincarnation of Granit Xhaka. He has changed. He's changed himself this season. You got to give him credit for that, right?
Oh, he has changed himself this season. But today I was worried. I thought, okay, here we go. This is the red card that he was.
We're going to Newcastle.
He's missing from his collection.
Well, we're going to Newcastle, and they are a physical team that you have to stand up to. You remember back in the day, they'd say, Stan, you have to earn the right to win games, right?
Fine.
I thought we were physical today.
I'm sure I heard somebody say, I've been listening in bed and I've been drifting in and out of sleep a little bit. And I'm sure I heard someone say, I think this is the best game that we've played this season. And that woke me up. I was like, huh?
I think this was the best performance. I think this was the best performance of the season.
No,
I think I said that.
I think this was a get out of jail performance. We're lucky, and we've walked away from an away fixture at a very dangerous place with all 3 points. Mm-hmm. So when the final whistle went, it's like, right, quick, everybody, run, get on the coach, put your foot down, don't look back. Just don't look back. Keep going. Get back to London.
Yeah, and this is what we wanted to do at Anfield. We wanted to get in there and quietly take 3 points and go home. But, we got involved in some things at Anfield as well. Granit Xhaka did.
It seems like I'm not on my own, though, because even the assembled seems to have the similar opinion on the game. He says that he has the same opinion also, but saying something less than positive doesn't go down with the fan base. You might have something to that.
Yeah. Well, I respect everyone's opinion here. Yeah, so we're all going to see some things differently. Jorginho and Odegaard were better than Xhaka today, in my opinion. Yeah, and that's good. Tim, everyone is entitled to an opinion. The key is everyone wants Arsenal to win. Who do you know is wrong with an opinion? Exactly. The assemble, I think, sums it up perfectly here. There's nobody that's wrong with an opinion unless your opinion is clearly, off the wall, right, Stan?
Yeah, we all see the game in different ways, right?
It's fascinating. It's fascinating that you and I think alike on a lot of things, right? Generally, but this microcosm of this game, you see it differently than I do, and I just think that's fascinating. Not that you're wrong, not that I'm wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, for me, you're talking about man of the match. For me, the man of the match was Ramsdale.
Yeah, lots of candidates in there. Ramsdale played really well, and for anybody to say Ramsdale's not a keeper that can win the league, he's done things at Anfield that we're astounded by, and today as well. Craig has been a bit harsh, in my opinion. If Arteta doesn't win the league, he has to go. Up against Man City, up against the juggernaut like Man City. Admittedly, I think everyone at Arsenal made some mistakes somewhere along the line in this season. Players have made mistakes. The manager has made mistakes. Sam said Jez and his gang already thought we had lost today before we even played. They are not real fans, in my opinion. How you can look at this season as failure is just pure delusion. You also have to.
Can I say something about that comment?
Sure.
Yep. I mean, for me, right? I mean, I've seen this character on a couple of podcasts.
Yep.
And he was on a podcast that he joined a podcast just as I was leaving. Thank heaven. And for me, it's like you know, we come here and we don't all have to share the same opinion. It would get a bit boring. It would get a bit boring if everybody on the panel and everybody in the chat box were just all agreeing about everything. It'd hardly be worth coming here. You can have a difference of an opinion, but I don't understand that why you have to be. If you're in this kind of a forum, and you've got a difference of an opinion to someone else that's on your panel, why do you have to be rude to them about it?
100%.
You don't have to address someone. You don't have to address someone, especially someone that you don't know, and be giving it kind of like, you know, you don't know what you're fucking talking about, you fucking idiot.
Yeah.
I've been watching this since the fucking game was invented. So, you know what I mean? Don't fucking try and tell me nothing.
Yeah.
For me, that I don't understand what that's achieving.
To sit on your high horse and say, I've been watching Arsenal for 50 years, makes me better than the guy who's been watching it 10 years. No. Every Arsenal fan is equal in my eyes.
I mean, I'm happy to debate and talk about Arsenal with anyone. It's just a chat. It's an opinion. I enjoy the conversation.
Yeah.
But if you start addressing me like that, we've got a problem.
So, Craig, we love you, Craig, but I want to ask you a question. Would you have sacked Klopp the year before they won the league because they lost the league by 1 point? You know, I don't know if you would have sacked Klopp, but, you know, here we have Arteta and Arsenal running Man City very, very close. Why would you start from scratch again, bring someone new in, have new ideas, and just set your project? People hate that word, project. Set your whole plan back another 3 years. You know, why would we do that? And I think we're in a great position, Stan, where this team has shown us.
I was just going to say, it doesn't necessarily mean that by changing the manager, no matter who you bring in, it doesn't mean that this group of players will respond to them. These are Mikel's guys. They're like his adopted children. They respond to him. You can see that they definitely respect him, and they're learning from him, and he's even improving them, and they can see that. There's no guarantees that by, you know, for whatever reason, if you want to get rid of this manager, it could really upset everything. We could end up in a Chelsea scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, because Chelsea have been a cup team. They won a premium competition in the Champions League by bringing Tuchel in. They went to an FA Cup final, but they haven't bridged the gap between themselves and Liverpool or City. We're doing that now in a sustainable way. And look, next season should be more competitive. We want it to be more competitive because we want more teams taking points away from City. But to say Arsenal are not progressing, you're deluding yourself as well. And Tim Irwin, if you're not already subscribed to Arsenal Fan Circle, you should, because it sounds like
a quick question, please.
Sounds like you should be over here with us, Tim Irwin. We appreciate you.
Can I ask a quick question? The person that was in the chat box just a few moments ago, you put up there, the person that said if we don't win the title this season, then Arteta has to go.
Yeah.
Can I ask this person? I don't know Arsenal forever. Have you ever seen Arsenal win a title yet? I'm just trying to understand where you are in your.
I believe
Arsenal.
it's Craig, and I believe he has seen Arsenal win a title before. Okay. But I will let Arsenal forever and Craig answer that for himself. But
the reason I asked that question is that and it was just an opinion of mine, doesn't mean that it's correct. I was kind of thinking to myself that people out there at the moment that feel that if we don't, you know, anything other than first means that the manager has to go. I was always wondering whether those were supporters that hadn't had an opportunity to see Arsenal win a title yet. So I could understand that if you're in that place, you can really feel on a knife edge. If you've been supporting Arsenal for if you've been supporting Arsenal for like 20 years, the last 20 years, and you've not seen Arsenal win a title, then I can understand that the frustrations of seeing where we've been over the last 19 to 20 years, and then seeing where we are on the precipice of almost winning a title. I could understand some people, losing it and wanting change.
Yeah, let's back out a little bit. We won the Premier League with Arsene Wenger 20 years ago, and he took us to a new stadium, and we had many, many years of downgrading the team to fund the stadium. We went into winning FA Cups, and that was the best we could do with the level of talent we had. We were always one or two players away, and we had a bid against Leicester City when everyone else was out of sorts, and we didn't beat Leicester City. We weren't able to break them. Fair play to the mentality of the Tinkerman. I forget his name again, Ranieri, and his team, right? We went to a stage where Arsene Wenger had to go. Even he knew it. We got a transition with Emery using the best players that we had from the Wenger era at the time. Got to a Europa League final and didn't turn up in the final. And then we went through Arteta, and it's been 3 or 4 years, granted, but we were gradually building. If you can't see the bigger picture of where we were 20 years ago till now, then I'm sorry, I don't know how to convince you, because I see progress, and I see Mikel Arteta slowly understanding his own issues, and I see the team and the young players growing as well. And we see a performance today that for me was mentality of standing up to a physical team and winning the duel first, winning the ability to win, to play on your own terms, and having the skill to beat them in transition. That's what I saw. But what do you think, Stan?
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I personally don't see what good the changing the manager would do at this point.
Correct.
I think that, we've finally got a manager now who's setting the ship since Wenger. The end of the Wenger days were awful,
Yep.
I appreciate it.
We lost to Newcastle 2-1, right?
As much as I appreciate everything that he done for us towards the end there, it was time for Mr. Wenger to move on and for us to go in a different direction.
Yeah.
And then we came in with Unai Emery, and that was a disaster as well. I don't think the ownership really believed in him. They didn't back him. He said, "I want this player. I don't want to brought in the opposite player." Situations like that. And we've now found a manager that's really managed to reshape the whole club. Look at Man United since Alex Ferguson's left. They're still trying. How many managers has it been since Alex Ferguson has left? How many have they gone through?
Probably 5 or 6.
It's ridiculous.
Louis van Gaal, Mourinho, David Moyes, Ole, and now Ten Hag, probably.
If we get rid of Mikel Arteta, we could be going through a similar motion of constantly grinding through managers because we can't find the right one that has the right personality, the right blend that we need at Arsenal.
Yep.
And we have that at the moment. Liverpool have it with Klopp, or they did have it with Klopp. Chelsea had it with Mourinho. It just fits together, doesn't it? Sometimes the manager and the club with the players, it just seems to fit together. And I just feel that we have that at the moment with Mikel Arteta as the manager.
Let me get Alonso to say goodbye. He's going to leave us. Hopefully you can stick with me for a little bit more, Stan.
Yeah, guys. I think
interesting. Go ahead, Alonso.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show, Ray. Good to talk to you about the win today. Stan, hope you feel better, man. It sucks. You know how it feels, man. See you guys around. See ya.
Yeah. Have a good Sunday, mate. Take care.
Take care. See you guys. Bye.
Thanks, Alonso. Let's continue this point as well, Stan, talking about this. Craig says here, since returning to Real Madrid in 21, Ancelotti has won every single trophy in only 2 years. That's what elite managers do. I would say, what did Ancelotti do with Everton? He didn't make them better.
Wasn't the right blend, was it?
That's my counter argument. What?
It wasn't, as I was just saying, all because you're good in one place, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be good everywhere. And Ancelotti, as I was talking about having the right blend, he didn't have the right blend at Everton. He was toilet at Everton, to be fair. However, he goes to his next club at Real Madrid, and it's like you're looking at a different person. He's the same guy, but his
you have that mentality.
But his environment, he's better suited to that, obviously, that environment, and he's got better tools to work with.
Exactly. Better tools to work with. The mentality is there within the club. It seeps through the walls at Real Madrid. This team is supposed to be winning things. Tim said it's a relevant argument. Jez in his 60s. Of course, he's been watching longer than me, as I'm in my 20s. I think, again, every Arsenal fan is equal in my eyes. You know what I mean? Just because some of them don't know, haven't seen the things we've seen, Tim, you're going to live longer than me. You're going to be living, well, not longer than me, but you're going to be alive when I'm not alive, and you'll be watching Arsenal. So Arsenal forever. Why does Arteta need to go?
It doesn't matter how long you've been watching Arsenal or whatever team you support. It doesn't matter where you live and to support your team. It doesn't matter if you've never been to a live match. It honestly doesn't. It doesn't. None of that really matters. You know, discourse and a debate and difference of opinions is healthy.
That's what
The only thing that you have to do, right? The only thing I believe that you have to do is be respectful of one another.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to agree. You don't, and by having a difference of opinion to someone that's been watching it, if you've only been supporting the team for 5 years and you've got a difference of opinion to someone that's been supporting the team for, say, 40 years, it doesn't make it any better or any worse.
I've had this situation.
Hang on, what makes you worse is when you talk to people like a shit ass. That's what makes you worse.
When you talk down to people, you know.
Exactly.
That's bad. Tony has taught me something this season. He was really, remember the first game, right, at Crystal Palace. We scored pretty early with a Martinelli goal, and we scored really late with a Bukayo Saka shot that's an own goal. In between, Arsenal didn't have a lot of control in that game, and Tony was doing his nut about not having enough control. And I decided from that point on, Stan, that I was going to say to myself, that's fine, Tony. That is your opinion. You see the game the way you see it, and you formulate opinions the way you view the game. And I formulate my opinions in a different way. Tony's not wrong, and I'm not wrong. We just see the game differently. And it sounds like you and I, Stan, saw today's game differently. But I respect your opinion as maybe you respect mine as well. You know what I mean? And there's things that you will say to me that it wouldn't make me think about my approach and what I've been thinking about the game. You know what I mean? I think that's healthy.
I was just about to say, I mean, I've been supporting Arsenal for around 43 years or so, and I'm still finding different ways to view things and look at things for being involved in podcasts, talking to various people, engaging with people on Twitter. All because I've been supporting Arsenal for 43 years or so. It doesn't mean I know it all. I'm still learning, still find out things. I'm still finding out things about the club that I didn't know that someone else knew.
Yeah.
And I like that. I want to be educated. I want to continue to learn. I don't want to close off my mind and say, yeah, I know it all, thanks.
Mr. Tom is right here, echoing what we say. Why did Ancelotti finish below Leeds with Everton if he was so good? You know what I mean? Taib is here, and we enjoy having Taib here as well. Tim, I haven't, but he should be given at least one more season in terms of Mikel Arteta. Listen, Liverpool, I've given Klopp many, many years now, and he's come through and given them a league title against Man City. I would take at least that. If what Klopp has done for Liverpool, we could have had that kind of success, then would that be good in the next 5 or 6 years? Win a Champions League, win a Premier League, win an FA Cup, and win a League Cup. That's not bad in 4 or 5 years, right?
we're on the right path. You can't win the Champions League unless you're playing in the competition. We've,
Yeah.
we've secured that. We've accomplished that after how many
We got
years?
the ticket.
Exactly. We finally have a manager that's been able to get us back into that competition.
Yeah, we've got the ticket. We're back in the Champions League.
It's taken him
Right.
a couple of tries, but each time he's looked at where he went wrong. He's improved on the squad, and now he's done a little bit of a tinkering that's enabled to get us into that place. The next test for us now is the next big test is next season, because we start again in 4 competitions, one of them being a really major one in the Champions League. And it's going to be interesting to see how this manager navigates those competitions with the squad that he's got, whether we're able to rotate or whether we have to continue, for example, in Champions League games, having to play our first 11 all of the time. Because if we're going to do that, then it's going to cause us problems in the league. It's going to cause us problems in other cup competitions. So for me, I want to, as much as I enjoy Mikel Arteta, he's not perfect. He still has things that he needs to learn. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to seeing next season if he can handle the next challenge, which is being in a top tier competition like the Champions League.
I will say one thing. Mikel Arteta has given us so much more than he's taken away from us. He's given us a lot of enjoyment this season. And I can, not that I was ever ashamed of wearing a shirt going outside, wearing the Arsenal shirt. Now I can walk outside and say we're one of the best teams in the league because of Mikel Arteta and the team, the players behind them. And I see Tim Irwin saying, had a lot of abuse on other channels. My advice to you, Tim, would be cut your cloth accordingly. If you want to watch positive channels, find those positive channels for you. And I hope you would think that our channel here is one of those for you as well. Come and see us Thursdays and Sundays as well.
It's just about flavors, right? Some people resonate towards Coronation Street. Some people resonate towards EastEnders. And it's all about the personalities. There's some Arsenal channels that I don't watch because I just don't like the person who is giving me the information. Not because I know that person. They just don't they don't jive with me. I don't feel like I don't resonate towards that person or gravitate towards that person. It's all different. There's probably loads of people that maybe don't watch Arsenal Fan Circle, not because of me, because everyone loves me, but maybe they don't like, Ray or Gary or whoever. Do you know what I mean? Tony. You can't please everyone. But I will say one thing, and it was I was looking at Chris Nix, and it seems to be the same person that's coming up in a lot of the chat that's ruffled a lot of people. All I will say is that you can always mark someone's card, and you can always know what you're dealing with when you've got a person that's basically saying, look, I don't mean to be such an arsehole. I'm sorry if I sound like a right arsehole. I really don't want to be like a dickhead. To me, I'm like, well, you're doing a fucking great job of it. Yeah. For somebody that doesn't want to be that, stop being that.
Yeah.
And they're basically telling you what you're dealing with from the very off.
Or somebody said,
I don't want to come on here and say like a right arsehole, but to me, I'm like, okay.
That's sometimes people say, don't believe anything that comes before the word but. You know what I mean? Ramsdale needs to get rid of those big errors that happen a bit too often. He still makes match-winning saves and overall has a high standard. He's still young for a keeper. I think he's quit himself quite well this season as well. Yeah, listen, isn't it funny? And thanks for subbing as well, Tim Aaron. We hope you're part of this channel as well.
We're on Thursdays, Tim, as well.
We all have different points of views, and some of it, that's the way I want it. I want differing, as Stan has said, you get differing viewpoints. It makes good debate, but it's also always respectful debate, and we're a respectful debate. And we are back on Thursday night as well. Yes, indeed, Stan.
I'll tell you a quick little story as well. I was someone that I used to be friendly with on Twitter. I followed them, they followed me. Been on some podcast with them. Don't know them very well, but kind of had similar views with that person. Never had any sort of like heated opinion conversations. Kind of seemed to be on the same page. And I just didn't see him around for ages. For months. I didn't see this person anywhere. And every now and again, I would think, what happened to... I'll tell you who it was. It was Kenny Ken, who I always used to say, my old mate Kenny. And I started getting a bit worried, like thinking, I wonder if anything's happened to Kenny, because I'm not seeing him. It's been months now. And so I done a search for him, and I just found out I was blocked by him. I don't know why I'm blocked by him. I don't know if I said something that he didn't like, something to someone who he's more friends with that he didn't like, but it's just life. But he has these tools at his disposal. And if somebody has rubbed you up the wrong way, you can mute them, you can unfollow them, you can block them, you can give them a rest for a while. It's just the way it is.
I always say, surround yourself with people that you want to be around. You know what I mean? And I like to think that's what I've got going here. We've got that going here on this channel as well. You know, we all get along, and we have a great chat box. For me, it's never been about the numbers of subscribers. You know what I mean? Because you've seen where you get popular, and it's not really the community that I want. I want to have a good community. We want to have a good community here, but not a huge one full of dickheads.
We have a lot of loyal regulars that come on every Thursday and every Sunday when we're here. They chat quite a lot in the chat box. And I'd even go as far as to say that there's probably people in the chat box who have made friends with other people in the chat box who they look forward to seeing each week and having a bit of a laugh with, a bit of a bants and a bit of a laugh with.
Yeah. 8th to 5th to 2nd, to me that represents progression. Wanting a second is delusion. I really don't think people understand what a huge task it is to beat City over 38 games. They're nearly perfect. We have a situation here, Stan, where the City have won every game since mid-February, I think it was, or mid-March, something like that. So they've gone through and won every game since, you know, and they've overcome what we have done. You have to get over 95 points to beat them. Liverpool lost with 90. They lost with 98 points, I think. 97 points, losing one game, we still came second. So Edu has said this is the challenge, and we need to meet that challenge, notwithstanding the issues they're going to have in court, hopefully. And I'm not going to talk about the court thing till the end of the season, and let it sound like sour grapes at the end of the season. Entitled mentality and out of touch. Isn't it amazing, Stan? And Tom is saying stuff as well that, as a Leeds fan, he's saying Arsenal fans are complaining because we're going to come second, a few points behind City. Isn't that amazing?
I do find it amazing because, I mean, there's 38 games that you play, right? How many teams is it in the league? Was it 19? Was it 18, 19?
19 other teams. There's 20 total. 19
20
other teams.
Right? Mm-hmm. There's people that are out there that are supporting their club. Maybe they've been supporting their club as long as I've been supporting Arsenal, 40 odd years.
Never won.
Never seen their team even get to Wembley for a cup final.
Mm-hmm.
Never.
Yeah.
Seen their team maybe come close. Maybe seen their team get knocked out of semi-finals. Maybe never even seen their team play in Europe. But those people, they don't just pack it in, do they? They don't pack it in and go, fuck this shit, I'm going to go support someone else. Some do. We all know that we have a few travellers out there that will move around, but generally, people stick with their team through thick and thin. So, I mean, just look at our CV. You know, if we were putting our CV up for what we've achieved in football, I mean, just the FA Cup tally on its own is pretty
14 of those,
right?
Yeah.
Remarkable.
Samuel said, do you think there's a disconnect between supporters in the last 20 years compared to supporters the 20 years before that? Maybe it's a social media thing, Stan.
Yeah, we've got more access. There's a big difference between what it's like today and what it was like 20 years ago. And I've told this story often. I was on holiday with my missus in Ibiza in the summer. Years ago, this was. 90s. And we were on our way to the beach, come down, went to breakfast, and my missus just wanted to pop into the gift shop and buy some oil and stuff. And so while she's doing that, I'm looking at the English newspapers, and there it is on the back page. We signed Dennis Bergkamp. First, I knew anything about it. Yep. First, I knew that there was even a link because we didn't know everything about the club. We had the back of the newspapers, and we had CFAX and Oracle on BBC One. And
parallel universe. I was walking to work in Dublin, passing through Guinness Brew Works, pick up a tabloid and see Dennis Bergkamp signed for Arsenal, like 7.5 million, something like that at the time. A snip.
Yeah.
Now, right? But that's how you used to get your information. You used to go on CFAX. And here we have.
We never had these like shit houses like Fabio Romano telling us every single thing that's going on in the club. Do you know what I mean? And I've again, when I was talking about the tools that we have at our disposal, okay, that Fabrizio Romano is very popular and a lot of people hang on his every word. But for me, it's just not my cup of tea. So I don't have that name on Twitter. I have him blocked and muted or whatever because I don't like going through all of that. You know, this the way that we have to know everything that's going on at the club and every movement and everyone that they're thinking about. And sometimes for me, it gets too much, especially when some of the information isn't even correct. You know?
Yeah.
So I've fallen into the trap of, you know, looking at my phone and seeing, you know, what Ornstein's talking about or Romano's talking about or this person or that person and
you know what,
trying to make sense of it all. And I just actually feel worse for it by the end of it.
We are going to go into the summer where if you're an Arsenal fan and you want that information, you're going to hear every story possible about the Arsenal transfer window. Now, we will hear talk about it. On this channel, we will talk about it. But I think we will talk about links that are more probable rather than fanciful. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course we see of course we're going to be here when we talk about links and what do you think about this person and that. But some of it for me just goes well over the top.
Beyond. Yeah. For an example, we talked about Trossard probably a year before he came to Arsenal.
Yeah, but that was us here, and we were talking about, we were looking ahead to who's out there that we think could come in and help us out immediately, hit the ground running. And Trossard was one that you and I both said that we were really interested in him and, hope that, maybe Arsenal could feel the same way and put feelers out and see if he was available. So when you're in a situation like that, you've got you and your mates having a pint and you're talking about someone you want to come in. When you hear, a month or two later that person is actually, they're coming in, you get excited about it.
Yeah. Yeah,
you get excited about it. It's no different to playing FIFA and finding a gem somewhere and bringing him into your team. And you've never really heard of this person before, but you found out online through the FIFA things that this guy's worth looking at, or you've done your own homework. And then you hear the person's name in real life and you think, oh, that's that same guy. And you want to see if there's anything in it, What's he like, this guy? I've had this guy every year I play FIFA, always look for this guy. And now he is in real life. And then he comes to your club. For me, that would have been like a Yuri Tielemans.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated about him just because I found him on FIFA so many years ago before he was even playing in England.
Yeah.
And now there's a likelihood that he might even come to my club.
Yeah. And even Usman gave me like a laundry list of players that we should target as well. But yeah, it is fascinating. What was I going to say here? Man United losing today to West Ham puts the top 4 race in the mix. We are clearly second place, still in with a shout here, Stan. And I think it's fascinating, the whole Arsenal social media fandom. I think Danny keeps a track of how many Arsenal podcasts there are out there.
I know you used to do that. Yeah, there was a lot. There was a huge number.
There's hundreds of Arsenal fan channels out there. So if you don't like what you're watching, if you don't like the community you're involved in, there's plenty of choice out there. You just have to go looking for the right fit for you. And that's all I would say. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're sure to find something that fits.
Yeah. But it is interesting to think that Mikel Arteta has done so much. The mindset that he came in with, Stan, when he joined the club, okay, I was kind of joking around on Thursday. He had 5 phases, which I think is brilliant, because if you're going to, if you're going to be interviewing for a job and you tell your employer, I've got 5 phases, your employer is going to want to see all 5 of those phases. So I'm happy the Cronkies have stuck with Arteta through the tough times a couple of seasons ago. Now we're seeing the fruition maybe of the plan. Maybe we're at stage 3 and we got 2 more stages to go. And I'm intrigued.
My employer would probably be going like, Stan, why do you keep going home an hour early every day? What's the crack? And I'd be like, listen, me staying for the whole day is phase 5. We're still at phase 3. We're not quite there yet.
Stephen said there's hundreds out there, Ray, but only one good one. I hope that's us that you're talking about, Stephen.
I thought we were talking about the trip on Mondays.
If people out there like what we do, that's really heartwarming, and we really appreciate it. That's all I'll say. You know what I mean? So what were we talking about, Stan? Just a second ago. Yeah, the 3 phases of Arteta. I appreciate what he did. He's come into the club. He saw how broken we were, and he said about repairing the break. Arsenal was fractured between the club and its fans, right? A few years ago.
Yeah, big time. I suppose it all started towards the last couple of seasons, really, under Arsene Wenger, was where it really started, I think.
Yeah.
You're always going to get, you know, a little bit of disagreement here and there. But towards the end of Mr. Wenger's tenure, I think that's where it really heated up. You know, that's the first time where, you know, being out or in something was kind of become sort of really prevalent in Arsenal's fan base. Are you an inner or an outer?
Mm-hmm.
You know, people decided that they had to label themselves and be really definitive in what they were. They couldn't change their minds because you're called a flip-flop. But the thing is, though, sometimes you have to change your mind because you're getting different information. The information is changing. The landscape is changing. You're allowed to change your mind. If you don't like something one day, you can say you like it the next day. And don't let anybody tell you that. And if I say you're just a flip-flopper, then call them a sandal. Yeah. Call them a piece of footwear. Call them an old sandal.
I'll put this banner up. Listen, I could not find an Arsenal fan out there in August that would tell you we're going to get 90 points this season, right? Did anyone tell you we were going to come second behind City? If that's, let's say that's the most likely outcome, right? We're going to come second, a few points behind City. Do you know anyone out there that would have told you that in August? We would win 25 games, lose
maybe that bird from the sun, the crystal ball. What's her name? Mystic Meg. Maybe her, if she's still around. But other than that, no.
And listen, it's okay. I originally set the target at 75 points because the goal was top 4. And we get into a situation where we're fighting for a league. And yes, maybe we mix up the teams a little bit in the cup competitions to preserve a Premier League title push. And if at the end of the day we've been found wanting, you've got to take it on the chest and go again, you know. But don't tell me you said we'd get 90 points, or anyone out there said we'd get 90 points. Only BX Gunner predicted 88 points. So big up to BX Gunner.
Hold on. Chris Nix is just telling me that Mystic Meg died a few months ago.
She died a few months ago, yeah.
So she didn't see that coming in.
So as the season goes on and you know you're going to get 75 points, it's okay to say to yourself, I want to be in the title race now. It's okay to adjust your expectations as according to what you see throughout the season, first half of the season, you know. We're in a title race, and it's okay to say that. But then you've got to be a little bit realistic and say, we're up against a Man City team who are going to churn win after win after win. And we have to go again in the summer.
And you can even say as well, I mean, there are serious allegations being leveled at the team that's winning everything. So, you know, you can also say to yourself, well, if you finish second, we could be finished second to a team that made it impossible for us to come first because they've been using resources that they should not have had at their disposal because they've not been operating their club within the confines of the rules that are set out by the governing body of the sport of football, allegedly, if it all turns out. So, I mean, what are we supposed to do there in that scenario?
Yeah, you got the player who is the Golden Boot winner of this season. He's come for 65 million. His dad's his agent. He's got 20 million, and Erling Haaland's been paid a princely sum every week to play for Arsenal. So, or not to play for Arsenal, play for City. So there you go. That's what you're up against, you know. And it's pretty tough, you know.
Yeah.
The assembled, we have come a long way, I think, in this year, the assembled. But let's see what you have to say. Ray, all this, we never expected this, and that is wonderful. The reality is you're not top of the league by accident. The reality is you're not top of the league by accident. I'd have liked to have seen better rotation of the team. Yeah, we were top of the league. We're up there because of the quality we have in our team. And yes, we could have had better rotation. What you're asking Arsenal to do is utilize our resources without any mistakes, right, Stan? That's the way I see it. Arsenal could still be top of the league if we had made no mistakes at all, and we picked the players who were going to win games for us each and every time. But that's pretty hard to do, in my opinion.
Thing is, as well, though, we don't see the full picture. You know, we're watching the games every week, and we've seen the 11 that's being put out, and then you may have, you know, one supporter saying, "Why is player X always on the bench? We need player X in the team because the guy that plays in his position at the moment is having a bit of a mare. Let's put player X in instead." But we don't actually see what happens during the week with the guy that you want to put in. Maybe the manager's looking at that guy and thinking, "You look a little bit white. You look a little bit off it. You look like you're not doing the things. You look like you're not doing the things that I want you to do as your manager."
Yeah.
So maybe there's a reason why the player that you think should be going in isn't. But then what happens is, if your wish is met, if you're going, "Why doesn't he put player X in?" and then he puts player X in, and player X has a fucking nightmare, then what? Because I guarantee you there'll be other people out there going, "Why did he do that? Why did he put player X in? It made us worse. For
instance, let's take Bukayo Saka, who has gone clearly off the boil probably in the last month, maybe. At what point would you have said to yourself, "I'm not going to start Bukayo Saka anymore because I know his performances. We know he's been playing the minutes, but he's been giving us goals and assists right up until maybe the Leeds game, or he was involved in the first goal at Liverpool." You know, it's impossible to know.
I think when it comes to the rotation of the squad this season, and this is just my opinion, right? Exactly, it is the thankless task, you know, and hindsight's a beautiful thing. Do you know what I mean? Hindsight's a beautiful thing. But for me, with the rotation, I think that after we played the Liverpool game, we should have started to do some kind of rotation after the Liverpool game. Mm-hmm. Because the next couple of games coming up was West Ham and Southampton, which you all know this phrase, don't we? The phrase on paper, you know, we thought that we were going to get results against them.
Yeah.
And then we had the big one against Man City. But for me, he left it too late, because once we got to the Southampton game, it was clear that we had one or two players that were important for us were not operating at their usual level. But because the next game now was Man City, what do? You're going to change it now against the biggest game of the season. We all know who our we all have an idea who our first 11 is. Maybe there's one position that somebody might change on one position, but we all know 10 out of the 11 or mostly the 11. So leaving it as late as he did and dragging his heels and dithering a little bit about the changes he wanted to make, he couldn't then do it at the Man City game. Too late. Now you can't think about doing it till after that game. Yeah. But the thing is, there's 3 points available in that game. So you've kind of written off 3 points because you're like, I can't rotate now. I can't take the gamble now, but I know I should be doing something, and I'm going to have to do it after this game. to try and keep this one a little bit respectable. So I think that we should have started making our rotation changes after the Liverpool game. That would have given us a couple of games to rotate, give a couple of players breathers, and then obviously watching them in the training leading up to the Man City week and getting them prepared mentally for that. You can think about putting a first 11 back together again for that fixture.
Yeah,
that's how I. But I mean, again, I'm using the beauty of hindsight, right? I'm talking about this now with the knowledge that we drew against Ham, we drew against Southampton, and then we lost against it.
Right, and let's not forget we asked Manchester City to bring their best against us twice. I can't remember Man City this season playing better than they did against us at the Emirates, or playing better than they did against us at the Etihad. We pushed Man City to a situation in their season where they said, we're going to have to beat Arsenal twice because they've been so consistent and so good against the other 18 teams in the league, you know. So we pushed City.
And there's also a backhanded compliment in there, because when they came to play us, when we went to the Etihad to play them, they retooled. They changed their formation and they played with two up front. They didn't just go out and play their usual game and just took care of business. They made allowances for us.
And they've had to put aside the way.
To me, that's a backhanded compliment.
Yeah. And they ask certain players who want to do certain things, be creative in midfield or whatever it is. And Bernardo Silva, they asked him to play left back against Bukayo Saka for a big part of the game. Silva didn't really. Well, he did what he needed to do in that game. So we have pushed City to a point where, imagine if we had gotten even a draw in one of those games, Stan, the league table would be a point better for us and 2 points worse for them. That could be this. That's the swing really that has helped them to be on top now. Do we think that Arteta regrets not trusting Kiwior over the last few weeks? Then has to, right?
Was maybe the manager didn't think he was ready for whatever reason, because we only see half the game, don't we? And that is, we only see match day. Match day, yeah. We don't see what goes on for the other days in the week and why he makes the decisions that he makes. But you know, on the face of the information that we have as the supporters, yeah, you think to yourself, maybe there's a good question that we should have broken the taboo earlier and put two left-footed centre backs in.
How did he look today to you, Kiwior?
I thought he looked okay. I think I like him better than Holding. You know, he's a little bit more mobile.
Like I said to Alonso and Usman, didn't really notice him. And when you don't notice a defender, they're not making mistakes. That's for sure.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
May not have been brilliant, but he was very, very, I would say, accomplished. What he did today was accomplished. You know what I mean?
What I also enjoyed about today's game is, if you remember the last time that we were speaking on here, I mentioned about the two Everton games that we played this season. And I said, the first one that we played, it was the 0-0. And I said that, and it was a few weeks later that we were playing them again. And if you remember, I said, I was really looking forward to that game because I wanted to see how we would learn from the previous game that we just played, and how we could come away with 3 points instead of just one. And I felt that way about this game with Newcastle, because when we played them earlier on in the season, they gave us a bit of trouble. You know, we weren't able to dominate that game and walk away with all of the points. So I was pleased today, and I thought that today Newcastle would be more dangerous because they had more of their better players back in the squad that could hurt us, and we found the answer. Even though I said that I thought that we were quite lucky, we found the answer and we did come away with all 3 points. So for that, I think I say well done for doing your homework and managing to get all 3 points.
Yeah, I think if you were to ask a Newcastle fan, we probably put in the best performance of an away team at their home ground today. Aaron Ramsdale is the first Arsenal keeper to keep 10 away clean sheets in the league since David Seaman, and that's some good company he's keeping right there, Aaron Ramsdale. he should have given Kivior a chance sooner, and Saka and Zinchenko need to see the bench. These are things we probably wanted to see Kivior come in. You know, he had to be better than, with all due respect, Rob Holding. But Arteta did not make that decision. Ramsdale has some mistakes in him, but also some great saves and is definitely improving. Again, this is something we can, unfortunately, we're probably going to say we have to take this forward into next season, Stan.
Hope so.
You know?
I don't see why not. I don't see why not. Everybody seems to be on the same page. Everybody seems to want the same thing.
Yep.
You know, we have a really good team, and football is a team game. We don't have a bunch of individuals. We have a team.
You can see with a couple of canny additions that we will be ready to go forward. Imagine Declan Rice in midfield that's going to give Odegaard that platform in those games that he supposedly, well, he does disappear in a couple of games, right? Odegaard. He played well today. But there are situations where Odegaard's not seen. He's not as effective. Maybe because our midfield's been overrun, you know, against City.
I think sometimes with our midfield, it's about finding the right balance. And I think the midfield of Partey, Xhaka and Odegaard, I think that each of the attributes that each of those individuals possess gives us an overall good balance in the midfield. And I know some people would be like, well, you can take Xhaka out and put Trossard in. And yeah, maybe on the face of it, if you're just looking at Granit Xhaka and Trossard, that Trossard is the more exciting player and maybe the player that has more, that you may prefer more in your team. But the problem is that when you take Xhaka out and you put Trossard in, you've lost the balance.
Mm-hmm.
You've lost the cohesion with what Odegaard's doing for his job and what Partey is doing for his job. And I think that someone like Granit Xhaka just helps with the balance. The three of those three in there together is the right balance. So whoever we put in, at some point, whoever we put in longer term in that Xhaka role, they need to have some of the same tools. And I think that what that is they need to be a little bit more of a box-to-box than what Martin Odegaard is. They don't need to be the exact of Martin Odegaard, but on a left eight. They need to be able to come deep at times and help Thomas Partey so that he's not playing a single pivot for the whole 90 minutes. And that's what Xhaka does. Xhaka does come back and does help out with the defensive part of the game. He's getting into the box more, but his problem is that his offensive side of his game isn't as sharp as maybe a Trossard. So we've seen Xhaka scoring more goals this season because of the position that he's playing, but he's been wasteful of the chances that he's getting because it's not natural for him. He's getting into the penalty box sometimes, and he has an opportunity where he can either go for a shot or make a pass. While he's deciding which one of those choices he's going to make, he gets dispossessed.
Mm-hmm. We'll stick around for about 6 or 7 more minutes then. Go ahead.
Sure, sorry. I'm just saying that. So, you know, it's about the balance. You know, and I really hope that whoever we bring it to the midfield continues to create the right balance. And it looks like that we could be changing two in the midfield, not just Granit Xhaka, but maybe Thomas Partey as well.
Yeah, and we today show that we can be competitive and live without relying on Thomas Partey. And maybe he's carrying an injury. Something has to be amiss with Thomas Partey. It's been a long season for him. For Arsenal to compete on all fronts, we need 6 to 7 players in the summer. What's then? Not in his mind.
Partey, I think he must have a lot on his mind as well. You know, and everyone knows what I'm talking about.
What you're talking about,
has to play on a person's mind.
Do you think the midfield was balanced today? And did we see a double pivot today with Jorginho and Xhaka? I felt like it was a double pivot that they're working together in midfield.
Yeah, I quite like Jorginho because he's very good at collecting the ball and then sending it off. But his mobility around the pitch is where the problem is.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
if he finds himself too high up, and the ball pops out, he ain't getting back to get it.
Mhm,
You forget about him. Everyone's running past
Yeah.
him. Our players, their players.
He's quite tidy as long as he has players around him who are going to help him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we thought the midfield was quite balanced today. Indeed, we did indeed. Okay, so we're gonna carry over the man in the match till Thursday night. Okay, Stan.
Why?
Where we have more because you and I can nominate now, but we'll have more dialogue from other people as well, right? But let me who is your candidate then?
Ramsdale.
Okay, you can give the Ramsdale.
Because even though we won this game, I think that if it wasn't for Ramsdale, we might not have got 3 points. We might have only got 1.
100%. Yeah. I'm going to just throw Granit Xhaka in there as well. He put his body on the line in the 58 minute where he blocked the shot from Willock. He was involved in a couple of situations in midfield, and he put his foot where people wouldn't. Other people probably wouldn't put their foot in. Cleared one in the first half as well for a corner. Yeah, I understand where you're going with. He was jawing a little bit in midfield and walking that tightrope, right? A little bit. So in the comment section, here's how we're going to break this. In the comment section, throw in your man in the match as well. Let the comment box, people in the chat box speak as well. So what are your thoughts on Xhaka as well?
As it's only us two here towards the end now this week, why don't we let the chat box choose?
Sure. Yeah.
Let's get the chat box on voice.
Can't do the Don Juan.
Yeah.
Listen,
worry. No one will get in trouble. We won't tell Tony we did it. He won't know. So
hey, if the man is not here and he's tiling right now, I think he's putting some tiles down. Maybe he's even listening to us right now. No need to be shy, says Tom. Can't do the Don Juan man in match without the Don.
Just think of it like like in the Oscars when they say Tony Turner couldn't be here today, so you've got someone else to receive the reward on his behalf. One of them ones.
We have one vote for Eddie and Kedia. Okay, we'll put him in there. Eddie and Kedia, come on, please, assembled. Russ.
There's always one.
Craig, please, someone put some more candidates in there. We'll see what happens. But do you see where I'm coming from with Granit Xhaka? I see where you're coming from with Ramsdale.
I just saw I just thought that Granit Xhaka turned the ball over in some very vital situations, some very vital parts of the pitch. Something that I also noticed today was, did you notice when there was a brief stoppage in the game and everybody was sort of like on the sideline listening to Mikel Arteta?
Yeah.
Did you notice? Did you notice how far Ben White back? Ben White wasn't interested in any of that. He was doing that thing where, like you're pretending to listen, but you're kind of thinking about a couple of things that you're going to do when you get home or whatever. Do you know what I mean? He was doing one of them ones.
Gotta love Ben White, right? You gotta love the way his approach is. He doesn't give a fuck, right?
No, he doesn't give a fuck. Doesn't even have an agent. Doesn't need one. It's a fax machine. If people want to make him an offer, he just reads the facts. He doesn't need an agent and all that bollocks.
All right, BX Gunner, we are getting close to your 88 points. Hopefully, we can get to 90 this season. Give us your candidate for man of the match, BX Gunner. Who did you think was man of the match? Ross Morgan, come on. Give us your man of the match.
Yeah.
Craig, assembled. Give us your man of the match.
Tim Irwin, if you're still there, let us know. Sam, Sam's been unusually quiet. Hey, the voice of treason, where are you?
The voice of treason. All right, Stan. How do you characterize this game then in summary before we're going to get out of here? We're going to do the quick exit, right?
I thought it was a hard-fought 3 points away from home. I don't think it was I've seen us have better performances. But I did enjoy the way that we had a little bit of luck, because that ball doesn't hit the post and goes in. It could be a different game, man. It really could. You know,
Yeah.
It helps Newcastle. It helps Newcastle find a few more percent. Gives them even, they feel like they're walking on air a little bit. So I thought that we were quite lucky, but sometimes you need a bit of luck. And I'm really glad that we managed to come away, from a team that's really looking in good form with 3 points.
Got you. I'm laughing because democracy should rule, but when you vote twice, Tom, through another account, I don't know if we can keep that one. Yeah, Stan, isn't it funny? Like a couple of inches here and there, Newcastle score, they go 1-0 up. They probably go on and beat us 3-1 or 3-2, but it doesn't happen. And we get the break. We scored a goal and we go on and win the game 2-0. It's a funny old game. All right. Any final things to mention? And we'll say goodbye. I've dropped a backstage pass for people if they want to grab the StreamYard link and join us backstage. We'll stay for a few more minutes, but anything to say before you go, Stan?
No, not really. Enjoyed the game. As you all know, it's one of my favourite fixtures.
What do you think of the Patino? The assemble's asking, what do you think of the Patino situation? Sorry to cut you off, but
with Patino, I mean, he's just not going to be able to come straight back into the first team. You know, so if he wants to, if he really wants to play for Arsenal, he still has a little ways to go. He needs to hang in there and wait for opportunities to present themselves. But if he's like smelling his own farts and reading his own headlines, and he thinks that he wants to be playing in the Premier League from the first day of next season, then he ain't going to be with us. Maybe it will be with one of the teams that come up from the division below. Because, as you know, he's a prospect still and he has potential. Doesn't mean he's a finished article. I'd like him to hang around. I would like him to stay around a little bit and continue to, to learn and make himself more valuable. But if he hasn't got the patience for that, then I wish you luck elsewhere.
Right. Yeah, and you were just about to wind up with the Newcastle is a big fixture in your household, right?
Very big fixture in my household, as most of you that come around this channel know. I had an ancestor that was very successful at Newcastle United, and it was my dad's team as well. And I'm really pleased for them as a team. I'm really pleased to see where they're going under little Lord Fauntleroy, as I call Eddie Howe, because I wasn't sure about him going in as the manager. I thought that the job may have been too big for him. I felt that Eddie Howe was a kind of guy that, likes a small club and would thrive in a small club. And I felt that the amount of funds that they've got at their disposal, it might all be too big for Eddie Howe. But he's been very prudent in the way that he's used their funds so far. And it's also clear to see that he seems to be a man that improves players. And that's I think that's a real vital asset for a manager to have. If he can improve players that you've already got, he increases their value, and that's brilliant for the football club, right? If you've got someone that can do that.
Yeah.
So really glad to see the progress they're making. Always keep my eye on them, but I was glad to be walked away with all 3 points, because when it comes to match day, family ties and all that, whilst nice and sentimental, they end up in the garbage bin in match day, I'm afraid.
We have saved ourselves from the traditional Arsenal meltdown at the end of the season. It's probably coming, but a defeat here,
I was about to say, be careful.
It would have been an implosion of gigantic proportions, Stan. Glad that it didn't happen. The narrative that Eddie Howe may be better than Mikel Arteta has taken a strike today. Eddie Howe's done a good job. Arteta's done a good job. Can we just say both of them have done a good job, without saying one is better?
Two managers that seem to be in the right place for them at this moment in their careers.
Yeah, And long may it be Arsenal and Newcastle toward the top of the league, and we have other bigger teams looking in from the outside. Man United and Liverpool being one of them. Listen, Stan, want to thank you for joining me tonight, all the way from the laid up with a sore back. I hope that improves for you.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate
Thanks to
that.
Alonso and Usman also for joining. And listen, a great win today. VAR, 2 through balls, 2 Ramsdale saves, and we got a few goals in there. So thanks, everybody. Slap a like before you leave and subscribe if you like what you're seeing with positive Arsenal fan channel here. And take care of yourself. We will see you on Thursday night.
Remember, everyone, go down to the Gooner Shack on Etsy if you want to find yourself a mug, a mouse mat, t-shirt, baseball cap. Take a look. You might like something.
Yeah, definitely. The Gooner Shack on Etsy. I'll drop a link for everyone watching back on Rewind. Take care, everyone. Enjoy this win against Newcastle, and the title race continues for another week. Take care, everyone. We'll see you.
Have a good week,
come
everyone.
back. Grab the link for backstage if you want to, and we'll see you on Thursday night.